And I want to say we're live. I really hope we're live. Let me double check here. Good morning, Sabah, everybody. For everybody joining in, I see Adam. Adam's in the live chat. Welcome. Good morning, Sabaho. And yes, we are live. I'm actually trying this in a little bit of a different scenario today. We are obviously there's a lot of good things going on. And first and foremost, one thing that I am actually kind of sad about this week. And I just real quick need to turn off the volume on my watching my live stream just to make sure that I have, good feedback on it. The Xperia 1 Mark II or the Xperia 1 II was returned. My time with it unfortunately kind of came to an end. Sony had a certain amount of time available for different reviewers and so on, and I was lucky enough to be part of Wave 1, so that gave me the ability of actually, getting access to it a little bit early. I see. Hey, good morning, Salam. I see a lot of new faces in here. Hey, good morning, Sabaho. Ahlan wa sahlan. Also hope, yes, thank you. Meranglot, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. I want to say thank you, Salam, and yes, thank you. The family is doing well, and this week has been a crazy week. This week has been a very awakening week, and a lot of things going on. Hey, good morning, wie geht's, my friend? We have somebody from Germany as well. Stay safe. Thank you, Boris. Welcome. Interested to see your account. We see it every week, but yes, thank you very much for joining, and I appreciate you also following on Instagram and I think on Twitter. So I had a question here coming in real quick. Let's go ahead and I guess it'll be a good time for us to kind of touch on this. Terrence, good morning. Hey, Terrence, and hey, love. Well, hey, Dinesh, thank you. Quick question here is: will you be making a full review of the Xperia 1 II or the Xperia 1 Mark II? My time with the Xperia 1 Mark II has ended. I have enough information and footage of it to be able to put out my review, and unfortunately, I did not put it out this week, mostly because of how things have been going on, and I just haven't had enough time to basically put my thoughts together as far as how do I want to basically frame it, especially since I don't have the device anymore. My hope essentially is to post that hopefully by next week, mid next week, by Wednesday. And I generally call those reviews the things that I like and the things that I did not like. I don't try to do a deep dive into the entire, cover every single piece of it, but I do cover all the main important parts of it that I, in my opinion, feel that I feel like actually something that you would want to consider if you're looking into this device. As to, there's a question that everybody's posting right now is this device worth $1,200? Why does it not have 5G in the US? Also, are the cameras that good? Is that something that I really should care about? I mean, obviously, what the experience is over what we had last year with the Xperia 1. And then, of course, last but not least, obviously, is that 90 hertz, or I think I would say basically the upscaling that they had on the 60 frames per second. And is it truly a 90 hertz refresh rate on a 4K panel, no less? So my hope in that video is to answer all of those questions. I would say right now, if there's any kind of a sneak peek that I can actually even remotely touch on, I would say is that the Xperia 1 Mark II or the Xperia 1 II, whichever way we want to call it, is a go. I definitely would recommend it to anybody considering getting a device that offers you a very good combination of things, because there's no perfect device out there. I'm not going to say that there exists a perfect device, because even if I do make one device and I make it with all the things that I thought was perfect, believe it or not, there will be somebody out there that'll say, like, no, I didn't really think that was worth it. You should have done it there. So I think the perfect device is a more of a subjective kind of an opinion. But if I looked at the Xperia II or the Xperia 1 Mark II, with a more of a purist look of what it's offering us, the camera experience on this, when I'm talking about the camera, I'm talking about the triple 12 megapixel cameras on the back. That experience there is so far ahead of anything right now available on the market in the way that it allows us to interface with them and control them, that you have to really give it thought, that basically see what Sony did with the Xperia 1 Mark II. They listened to what the users want. They gave us all the features. They didn't try to go with the 108 megapixel sensor to try to basically, say, oh, look, we have the 108 or 64 or 48. They went with bigger pixels on a 12 megapixel sensor, give us the control of manual functionalities the way we have it on Xperia Alpha devices. And all of that is in a smartphone, basically form factor, and it works very good. So, but it also, kind of like on the flip side, if we have to kind of say, well, what do I don't like about the cameras on the Xperia 1 Mark II? Well, the front-facing camera is something that I'm not necessarily too fond of. It's okay for maybe a quick selfie once in a while, but for content creators such as myself, it's not something that I can use. I cannot say that if you are a vlogger, go buy this. If you're somebody that wants to basically go out and take a quick, video and live stream and so on, I think it may work okay for you. I feel like some of the functionalities built in for audio or external audio built into the Xperia 1 Mark II are limited to the the Cinema Pro camera application. So those are the things that we will be discussing in that review that I'm going to post for you guys next week. So yes, there will be a review from my version of a review. My reviews have always been the things that I liked and the things that I did not like, because I want to also talk about the positive and what could potentially be fixed with future reviews, future comments. So with that being said, I am going to move this screen back here, mostly because I feel like I kind of moved you guys to a bigger display that I have on the right side, but it kind of makes me, every time I look at the display, I'm looking away from the frame. But yeah, let's see who's in the chat. Thank you, Janesh. Hey, Max Mead. Hey, Sabaho. Hey, Brian Danley. Hey, good afternoon. I think you guys are 8 hours ahead of me, so it's late in the afternoon for you. Welcome back. Yes. And hey, wow, we're starting off with a super chat. Let's go ahead and bring it up real quick. So, Alojash Sebokli, sorry. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. Thank you very much for the super chat. So with that comes with a question. So the Xperia 1 Mark II, the Xperia 1 II, good enough for versatility, street photography as a compact substitute? Are the cameras that much more versatile than traditional approach? So the cameras that we have here, we're focusing mostly on, or at least we're talking mostly about the cameras on the back. So we always, whenever we refer to the Xperia, at least the way I refer to it, is always the main sensors on the back. The experience from the Mark One, from Mark One to Mark Two, was so different that they almost look like, from the camera set perspective, they don't even look like they're very much related, other than the fact that we have a triple 12 megapixel sensor setup. The focal length was different, so now we have more of the standard focal length, so the 24, the 16, and the 70 millimeter, with the ability of going between them. So your focal length goes all the way from 16 to 200, because the 70 millimeter gives you the ability of actually going all the way to 200 millimeter. Basically perspective. So the flexibility that you get that with the Camera Pro application that you have here is something that we can't get with any other device. The control that we have here is very much inspired by the Alpha team, the Sony Alpha camera team experience brought into the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II. The best way to describe it is if you've ever used, let's say, an RX-7100, or you've used basically a smaller, Alpha like the A7 III of sorts, you'll have a very much a familiar experience here, and that's the level of control that you're getting there. And from a street photography point of reference, when you have the ability of setting up your camera, sitting there and getting and composing your shot, I feel like those are the controls that we just don't get. Even with pro modes that we see with other camera apps, their intention essentially is to give you a few options to configure. I mean, with the exception of LG, I feel like LG did a little bit more to give us more functions within the camera application. But I also feel like Sony did that and decided to say, look, we're not going to combine everything together. We're going to give it to you specifically. If you're going to shoot video, sorry about that. If you're going to be shooting video, if you're going to be obviously doing photography, we're going to give you two different applications, pretty much the same way you have it on an Alpha camera. When you're in video, you're not clicking a button to switch over to photo. You're actually switching the dial on the camera. So in this situation, you switch an app, and in the app, you're able to jump between the different modes, and of course, 4K 60 frames per second on the back sensors with HDR. So personally, I think it's worth it. I think from a presence in the mobile device and the mobile space, they did so many things right. Now, would there be a few things there that I wish they could have done? They could have done more in the actual device. Absolutely. There's always going to be the wish list of things that I wish they could have done. But from what they offer us in 2020, I feel like they are a force to be reckoned with. I am very sad that it is not available to actually be purchased till, or at least be shipping out till July of 2020. So basically almost the second part of the year. They didn't even actually get a chance to release it like they did last year. So, but that could be also because of the current situation. So to answer your question, I think the approach to photography, street photography, and the control level that we have here is very much a Sony Alpha experience. And if you love Sony Alpha cameras, there's no question that the Xperia 1 Mark II is a great device to check out. Again, very much, I am extremely happy, and I was very, very sad to have to put that back in a box and ship it back to Sony. I extended it from last week. They wanted it last Friday, and I was able to ship it back to them on Tuesday due to some concerns here in the area. Oh man, Jack. Okay, so it's 6:40 p.m. It's almost 7 p.m. in the UK. So hey, good evening then. Good evening. Hope you guys are doing well. Hey, Ram, kumusta ka? From the Philippines. I do apologize. I know how to say hello in many languages, and there's very few things that I know how to say. So let's real quick here. So any ideas if you'll be reviewing the Xperia? Okay. So ER 1980. I reached out to Sony and I tried to get in touch with them regarding getting access. So in the US, I have access to contacting Sony US PR. So I don't unfortunately have access to the UK or European team. Unfortunately, they don't have a way of getting me the Xperia 10 2. So that one is more of a mid-range version of what we saw with the Xperia 1. And I think it's running the 600 series chipset. So for me, at this point, it's going to end up having to be me actually purchasing it and having it imported into the US. That would be the only way for me to cover it, mostly because of the availability in the US. It's not going to be sold in the US. I think it's a European market specific device. So I'll have to see if there's ways of basically doing that. I'll talk to my buddy Matt and see maybe there's some way for us to kind of make it for me to be able to get it here and check it out and see how we can do it. And also I'll see if maybe Juan Carlos would want to be able to check it out. So that could be some kind of little project between Juan Carlos and myself. Again, the Xperia 10 is not intended to come to the US, but the Xperia 1 is definitely going to. And keep in mind that at some point at the end of the year, if history repeats itself, we also should be looking at the Xperia 5 Mark II, which could be the basically successor to the Xperia 5 that we saw last year, with some of the benefit of this camera, meaning the camera optics, all the main sensor functionalities, the bigger sensors, the Camera Pro app, Cinema Pro app, all of those things in a slightly smaller form factor with a 1080p panel over as opposed to 4K with a more affordable price. I'm also looking forward to that one as well. Let's see real quick here. Okay, so question here. Monkey Boy is asking, I need to know if the 5G works or not. So, and I'm hoping that you're still talking about the Xperia 1 Mark II. In the US, the Xperia 1 Mark II will not support US 5G bands. So there is no 5G. Yes, it won't work. Even if you import the European model, the UK or the European model that does state 5G on the box, which just as a side note, the device that I actually had a European model Xperia 1 Mark II. Mine was a retail unit, or at least almost retail unit experience of the Xperia 1 Mark II. And that one did have 5G in Europe, but not supported in the US. For me, I tested it out on AT&T as well as on T-Mobile. I got pretty good connection speeds up to like 111 megabits down and about maybe 30 or so up. But those are again 4G LTE. And right now in the US, with this current state of 5G speeds and LTE speeds, 4G LTE speeds can actually overlap depending on the market that you're in. So for a pretty much straight answer to your question there, no, it does not have any, sadly, any 5G in the US, and I don't think it's going to. Now, last week when Juan Carlos was on the show, we talked about a little bit about the Xperia Pro. Keep in mind, there's that other device that's coming out from Sony. They kind of talked about two in February. There's the Xperia 1 Mark II and then the Xperia Pro. The Xperia Pro was supposed to have millimeter wave support for 5G. And what it sounded like is that device will be probably supporting 5G. Unfortunately, it's not going to be supporting all of the bands of 5G, meaning on all the carriers. It'll probably be specific to Verizon. So will there be a Sony 5G device? Yes, it's probably going to be the Xperia Pro. Now, that doesn't really say that much as far as what's going to happen with the Xperia 5 Mark II, or the successor of the Xperia 5. That could have 5G by the end of the year, by the time it actually be coming to the market. So we'll have to see how that one comes in. Night X0, good question. 5G or not? Yeah, no 5G on this model in the US. In Europe, yes, there is 5G support in Europe. So the UK and the European model of the Xperia 1 Mark II will support 5G. And of course, in native Japan, obviously they're going to be there supporting their own bands. The one thing I did actually kind of found out later on that was a little bit bummed about it as well, it's the color availability of the Xperia 1 Mark II, which seems like it's basically region-based. So at least in the US currently, you can only pre-order the black model. And depending on where you go, you're able to pick up one with and without the pair of headphones. And I'm talking about the Sony pair of true wireless headphones with active noise cancellation that are free if you purchased or if you pre-order it with B&H. And if you go with Amazon apparently is not doing that right now. So I did reach out to Sony trying to find out what the difference is in and what other retailers are going to be providing it. So yeah, sadly, no 5G. But I say this at this point, it depends on how the functionalities are going to be with 5G in the US. Right now, AT&T and T-Mobile are offering a sub-6 type of 5G. Speeds are averaging around 100, maybe to 150, depending on where you are and how close you are to the tower. But then when we truly think about what 5G can do, T-Mobile will start offering obviously much higher speeds now with their acquisition of Sprint, but that's going to take some time. So is that something that we should be worried about? I would say if you're considering getting this device for more, I would say maybe for the next 2 years plus, then yes, I think that's a very valid concern. It's something to keep in mind. Is it going to be where you cannot use the device or an unusable, basically, there's just going to be no function for this device in a year if you don't have 5G? No, I think 4G LTE is very much a capable technology. It's actually more power efficient in the sense of how much power it consumes out of your device. And the fact that we have a 4K display on the device with a 4,000 milliamp battery, the combination had to be just right. And from what I understand, it's mostly just the fact that it's something that they decided. I'm not sure exactly from a PR standpoint why, or if it's maybe more technical in nature. But I could not get a straight, like more of a specific answer from Sony. Let's look real quick here. 70 though, thought it was 50. That's good though. Okay, so I think somebody's asking a question. I'm not. 640. Okay, sorry. Just jumping through. So here, one quick. So how is the Xperia 1 Mark II battery life compared to the Snapdragon S20 Ultra display? Oh, the screen on time. # screen on time. Okay, so first things first. I'd like to answer that question very in more of a perspective reference. The Xperia 1 Mark II and the Sony, the S20 Ultra and the Mark II are slightly different. Obviously, the S20 Ultra has a 5,000 milliamp battery, obviously 1,000 more, obviously a much bigger battery than what we have on the Xperia 1 Mark II. It also does not have a 4K display. It's running a 1080, basically a 120 hertz QHD display, one or the other, so you don't get both. So either 120 hertz or a QHD at 60. So if you compare that functionality, we're talking about a QHD 60 as opposed to a 4K 60 display. So they're a little bit different in the power consumption. In my usage on a daily basis, the Xperia 1 Mark II lasted me the entire day. I did not have any problem. And I'm talking about it after the honeymoon phase was over. So after I've had it for about a week and I was basically literally on that device every single minute of the day kind of a thing. It lasted about a day for me. I was able to get about 4.5 hours worth of screen on time with about 15% left on the battery at the end. So I started about 6 a.m. in the morning and I ended about 9, almost 10 o'clock at night. Screen on time is not the best, but I felt like it was good enough for what I was trying to do with it. So I watched a movie there. I was using the camera. I was obviously listening, checking out my social media, setting up a whole bunch of different things. And I felt like the usage for it was okay. Can it be better? Probably, if I didn't watch as many movies and I wasn't running the 4K panel. So that's the other thing is the display on the Mark II is adaptive. So it changes the resolution based on what you're doing. If you're in the UI and you're watching Twitter, it's not going to basically push the device to be at 4K. So when you're watching movies and you do want to watch 4K content, you're definitely going to exert a little bit more energy out of it. So I think it was okay considering what I used. Now, is it going to be a champ when it comes to the battery? I don't think it will be. I mean, last year we went from 3,300 to about 4,000. I think it's a great jump, but I feel like 5,000 would have been the right number. I think if they would have compromised a little bit on the thickness and gave us a little bit bigger battery, I felt like that would have been obviously, especially with the fact that they gave us more tools that would basically make us spend more time with the device. So I felt like this is something to keep in mind. But I didn't have any problem basically charging it up. That was the other thing. Charging on this was actually much easier than the first gen. So keep that in mind in the experience of what you're getting there. You have wireless charging, wire charging at 18 watts, up to 21 watts, depending if you're able to have a different charger with it. The provided one in the box is 18, but it will charge up to 21 with any other power delivery charging adapting a brick. So I think the battery life was pretty good. I wouldn't necessarily say it's better. I feel like the S20 Ultra definitely has more stamina to last longer, but that's, again, on the combination of the configuration that you're doing. If you run it at QHD with 60, you're probably going to be getting obviously about over a day worth of usage. But I also feel like the UI on the S20 Ultra is a lot heavier in the sense of what it does in the background, as opposed to where Sony's more simplistic UI. So there's a lot of different factors into it, and also depends on how much you like the game. You know, those are things that you want to keep in mind as to the experience. And again, 4K versus QHD, combination of things you're able to get there. Let's see. Hey, David Burns, welcome. Aditya, I think I just saw Aditya. Neil. Yeah, hey, Aditya. Yeah, Gary the fireman. Believe me, if my brain could handle it, I would have just so tried. Yes, a lot of things have been going on this week. A lot of things going on, and my hope today, at least in this hour, is for us to kind of take a little quick break and just kind of hang out and see how things are going. I do want to mention something. Let me just jump real quick here. See, yeah, Gary's in the live chat. Hey, Gary, Matt, welcome back, my friend. Yeah, if you don't mind, sorry about that. Yeah, if you see him, if you notice me that I haven't answered the question yet, I will go back and start scrolling through. So just kind of to Matt's point, please let's not try to spam the chat room, so that, because what ends up happening is it pushes other people's conversations or questions, and I don't have a chance to get to those. But welcome, Aditya, everybody. Welcome. So, oh yeah, no, definitely. Let me see here. Okay, so let me jump back real quick and see if I can find. Okay. So by the way, I don't know if you probably can't see it here, but actually I'm logged into the actual live stream over mobile data here with this microphone. So I want to kind of show you guys also how it looks when you're using it mobile, if you want to use an external microphone with, which is kind of similar to at least the way Juan Carlos did it last week. So let's do this real quick here. Let me, yeah, of course. Real quick here. Let me, yeah, of course. Let me, yeah, of course. Okay, we're gonna have to lower that volume here. Oops, and of course, I jumped out of the actual chat. Sorry, one last time. Love it. I love it when you try to do something, and I realize I'm actually going into spinning. So here we are. Enter the studio. Okay, we're in. So hopefully this time this is not gonna crap me out. Oh, yeah, that's right. I actually should add myself into the stream. So I'll add, and I am here. Okay, so this is actually kind of a quick example. I think the audio is working fine. Let me know, obviously, if you guys can hear me. The main thing here that's going on is obviously I'm using the, this is the S20 Ultra. I jumped in and I jumped into the actual conversation using the S20 Ultra. I'm also using that the Comica external microphone that I did a video on. It's a USB-C microphone that plugs into your device, and as long as your device supports it, you're able to use it as an external device. I'm not sure 100% if, I'm hoping that the stream is working, mostly because I'm looking at the actual, here, let me see if we can scroll through. Sorry about that. And, hey. Audio is good. Okay, I'm glad you guys can see it. So the beautiful thing about it is the fact that it's mobile, it's easy to use, it's a directional microphone, it's great in the sense of what you're able to do. Also has a headphone jack to be able to actually listen to your own audio, so you can actually monitor the audio. And last but not least, let's say for some reason you want to cut the audio out, and you're gonna obviously hear this. So I'm click it. You can actually see that the audio goes away. Now, I'm hoping that you guys can't hear me on the other microphone, but there's obviously two microphones going on. So short answer is this is going to be the best situation to be able to do it mobile, and the green light is back. So audio should have cut out and come back, and it works really, really nice. So I like it. It works really good. And again, it works really nice with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II. Sorry, not the Mark II, but let's go ahead and jump back here. So you can kind of see right there, this is kind of like the point of view of watching it twice. Let's go and put this, and here we are, two different devices, TK Inception into his own live stream. So it is actually a nice functional way. So let's go ahead and we'll leave that one here. And let me just double check here. I want to say that the live stream is still going, but I am not 100% sure. Mostly because my smartphone or my other device that was on the stream is doing the loop. So we'll see how that goes. let's go real quick. So here we are. So Matt had a quick question. I slipped again, done a second time. I appreciate it. Thank you very much for the super chat, Matt. I really, really appreciate it. And I hope things are working out, or at least I hope things are better for you this week. I realize you guys didn't have a chance to do your live stream last week, and I was really bummed. Hopefully, we'll see you guys tomorrow. And if you guys haven't had a chance to, for everybody else on the stream, Matt and Sam generally have a live stream that they go on every Sunday afternoon. So across the pond, I think that's the name of I think that's the official name, right, Matt? Across the pond live stream. Sony Xperia. So here, Himanshu is asking Sony Xperia Mark II. Oh, Xperia 10 Mark II unboxing. I am working on that part right now. I need to import that over. So I'm going to talk to Matt, which is in the live chat. So Matt, I'll talk to you a little bit later on, see if we're able to get this. I want to be able to basically import the Xperia 1 Mark II from Europe. And I think it's sold in the UK. So if we could talk maybe after the show and then see if I can get that one over. I've had a lot of requests for people wanting to see more information about the Xperia 10 Mark II. So that'll be a good device to be able to check out, since it's going to be a little bit more affordable in the price point, and of course, offering us some of the new updates from Sony. So thank you for posting the question. Sorry, didn't get to it before. And as usual, one love from Gary the fireman. Thank you very much, sir. I appreciate it. Peace to everybody, and be safe, be respectful, and of course, appreciate everyone and for everything that they're able to provide and for who they are. It's always going to be the best way to look at things in life, and one love is always going to be the best way to treat life. Just treat life the way you feel. If you show love to people, you'll get the love back. That's generally the way it is. Do unto others as you want others to do for you, because that's how life is. We have to spread the joy to get the joy back, and that's one of the reasons why this group and this entire ecosystem, I would say, or even friends and chat and some gadget guy ecosystem, I would like to call it, is so good. And it is very, very nice. I appreciate that very much, Gary. And welcome. Thank you for joining us this morning. Yeah. Oh, David is Akron. Oh, yeah. Sorry. Across the Pond Cast. My mistake. I think my version was Across the Pond Cast. It's two separate words. So you guys combined it. So yeah, it's tomorrow afternoon. It's going to be the Across the Pond Cast with Sam and Matt. And let me know if you guys are also, if you have any guests this week. Yes. Got it. Yeah, nope. Across the Promcast. Yeah, I love it. It's a perfect thing. It's a perfect system. And they're definitely very chill, very kickback experience when it comes to that. Do you still have the Xperia? Yes. I always like to be able to pull things out, but yes, I still have my Xperia 5. The Xperia 5, and I also have the Xperia 1. So I have the first version of the Xperia 1, the 2019. So basically both of the Sony US devices. The Xperia 5 I've had since last year, and the Xperia 1 I just recently got back. So overall, I feel like I have what they offered us, the best that they offered us in 2019, and I feel like the Xperia 5 is a very good, smaller form factor, better fingerprint sensor out of the box. I have Android 10.0, great camera optics, but it doesn't really have the same sensors as we have them here. It's still, I would say, basically an Xperia 1 in a smaller form factor, a cheaper price, as well as a 1080p panel. So that's the best way to describe it, but I do have that, yes. So I have the Xperia 1. Is the fingerprint scanner good on the Mark II? A lot better, yes. There is, I felt like with the Xperia 1, with Android 9.0, we had a lot of problems, and I think it was a known issue for a lot of users. It got a lot better when Android 10.0 was rolled out to it, so I'm hoping you're running on this, Sukhtaj. Hopefully I'm saying that correctly. If you don't, and if you do, obviously that'll fix 90% of your concerns, but the Xperia 1 Mark II had a much better fingerprint sensor. I would say closer to the way the experience was on the Xperia 5, so much, much better, and you won't be disappointed at all. So that one's really good. I don't want to make anyone annoyed, so if anyone can answer. Oh, sorry. Vikash, let me see if I can find your question here. Will he still pick up the question and it's left above? Vikash, let's see real quick. Where are you? Where are you? And Adam, oh yeah, sorry. Vikash, where are you? I apologize for the scrolling here. I wish there was a way to search. That would help me a lot. Here it is. Okay, maybe not that one. Uh, oh, here we are. I think this is the question. Okay. Do you recommend spending that much money on an Xperia 1 Mark II? Is it really that big? Can it compete with the Pixel and the iPhone 11 Pro cameras? So let's talk. Let's okay. So first and foremost, I think the $1,200 is a. If you think about the price point in the sense of what you're getting from Sony, I think Sony holds themselves to a standard. Obviously, they provide things to a certain level, and they don't try to dip below that. They have a very much um, direct approach into if they're going to offer something, they're going to offer it at the best possible way, and they generally try to strive for that. So the $1,200 price point obviously is an increase from last year. Part of it could be attributed to the fact that we have obviously the newer SoC, the 865, and the fact that we also have basically more internal storage. We're looking at the 256 over the 128. Last year, the one that was selling for $1,000 was 128 gigs of internal storage. So it factored the double storage in there. Factor the basically the new sensors, the time of flight sensor that we have in the camera set up back there, wireless charging, the front-facing stereo speakers. There was some hardware changes, so I can definitely see how they were able to connect the last year to this year's price point. So that's that part of the question there. Is it worth $1,200? I feel like personally, for what they're offering, and after having been using it for about a couple weeks, I feel like it's definitely a worth it from what you're looking at other devices in the market. They're not trying to basically say that this is a device that will basically make you leave an iPhone. iPhone obviously has an ecosystem built around it. If you are into the Apple ecosystem or the iOS ecosystem, you're not going to leave it for a Sony. If you're in the Android ecosystem and you really want a great camera, I think Pixel offers a great still photography experience. I feel like what you get with the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II right now is a much better video slash picture quality image. On the back sensors, I'm not talking about the front facing sensors because what Sony's trying to do here, which is also similar to the way Apple does it, um, is they're trying to give you the I guess they're trying to do all the heavy lifting on the lenses. So they're using bigger sensors. They're also basically bigger pixels on the 12 megapixel sensor to give you basically the experience that you get from a DSLR, where most of the work is done on the lenses, where the focusing, the clarity of the image, very little is done on the actual device for post processing, which is where Google strives and benefits the most. And that's why we get so many great pictures out of, let's say, a Pixel 3a. It's a post processing that you're looking into. So those are the things you want to keep in mind. Um, I don't think we really would want to say that the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II can beat the X11 Pro Max. I feel like a person, again, that if they like the way the images come out of the 11 Pro Max with the auto mode, I would say into more of an automatic mode, I don't think this is going to be the device for you. I think you should probably stick with an iPhone 11 Pro Max because that's the type of experience that you're looking for from your camera. The Mark II is providing you a more of an SLR prosumer type of an experience on a smartphone. That's the experience that you will benefit from and enjoy if you're looking to get that from your smartphone. So that's why I never want to make a comparison, say, this is better than. Well, depends on how you like using. If you want to use an SLR experience on a smartphone, the Mark II is your device. If you want to be more into the auto mode and just basically being able to point and shoot and very little control over pro mode experience, I feel like the 11 Pro Max does a good job. I also feel like the what we get with the Pixel 4 right now is really good in that sense. But again, that's the experience you're looking for. Also, keep in mind the Pixel 4 does not have a wide-angle lens, where we do have that here. We have 4K 60 frames per second on the Xperia Mark II, where we don't have that on the Pixel 4. Yes, we have that on the 11 Pro Max. So the conversation kind of just, it depends on what you're looking for, Vikash. But to answer the question, it's a great camera. I think if you're a true Sony fan in the sense of understanding what Sony provides and the level of quality that you get from Sony, you would appreciate the price point. And I feel like the price point increase also has to have a few things that we need to also discuss. Again, there's the additional storage, the different types of sensors that they're using, the front-facing speakers, the wireless charging, the bigger battery. There's a lot of things that they did from last year, and of course, the aesthetical design on the device that they're bringing in. It's definitely something to consider. And if you're able to pick it up with the pre-order, having a nice pair of headphones that are roughly, I think, depending on which in the US, they're about $230, will sweeten the spot. Will make it a little bit easier for you. We'll sweeten the pot there. Um, so no 5G in North America on the Xperia. Yes, definitely. There sadly no support, even if you import one that does say 5G. And we know that it has the X55 modem because of the Snapdragon 865, but it isn't turned on. Could they turn it on in the future? That's a possibility as long as the antennas are there and it is supported in the current configuration. At least for the sub 6, I'm not thinking millimeter wave technology because those generally need different types of antennas. So could that happen? Possibly. I haven't had that much time to spend into try to look at some of the other development that's going on with the Xperia One Mark II, as the device hasn't been available for a lot of developers to get their hands on. So that's the other thing we want to keep in mind. It's very early. Device won't come out till end of mid to late July, depending on the market that you're in. So a little bit hard to kind of gauge that as well. Aditya, the camera is a baller, needs manual mode control. Of course. Yeah, definitely. But it is matched only by LG's level of control. Absolutely. Matt, you're hitting it right on the nail. And of course, none of that social media unicorn barf color. we're, we're quoting Juan Carlos, even though he's not here. Yeah, no, I absolutely agree. I think if there's one thing that I truly love on the LG V60 over the Xperia One Mark II, that would actually be the DAC, the audio performance on the headphone jack. Sorry, also kind of the comment with the why is it price point a little bit higher. We brought back a dedicated DAC for a headphone jack on a device that didn't even have it last year. So keep that in mind. A lot of things that you really would appreciate once you use the device for some time. The thing that I also want to mention to you guys, as far as just the performance of what we're getting here, it's the fact that the audio performance here is absolutely it's great from the sense that we have a headphone jack. Two, we have a dedicated DAC for that headphone jack. I feel like the amp on that is not as strong as we have it on the V60, and that's probably why I feel like the V60 wins there. V60 video control within the default camera application is very much next level functions, where Sony decided to separate that, and I feel like where it could confuse somebody by like, why do I have 3 applications to take videos and pictures? Why is that needed? Well, it's because it's a mode. It's really literally a mode like on a camera. When you're in auto mode, you're in auto mode. When you're in basically, priority shutter mode or shutter mode priority or manual mode, you're switching the dials on a camera to switch into the different modes. And Sony is giving you that same level of control in the sense of apps. Unfortunately, there's no auto switching. There's no dial on the top since we have an IP67 and IP68 rating, but it definitely really nice. Snyder, welcome from India. I want to say it's late in the evening in India. I hope you're doing well. Sorry, gotta plug in the Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball, TK Dragon Ball. Really should do a live stream one day on purely Dragon Ball stuff. I feel like we could definitely spend good times with that. Um, Shuktaj, currently I'm living in the UK. Next year I'll be moving to Canada. Does the Xperia sell? So does Sony sell the Xperia there? And if I don't buy it from the UK, and will it be worth? Will it work there? First things first. If you buy the device in Europe or in the US, it'll work 4G technology all across. So there's not going to be an issue. The only limitation I would say always if you buy the Japanese model of the device. Sony, for some reason, will release their devices in Japan. Obviously, home turf territory advantage, of course. But for some reason, they're coding in the way and they do this also on their camera design setup, where the languages can't be switched, and there's usually a compatibility thing. So I would recommend if you're going to pick it up either from the US, and I think Canada should be covered in the same boat, or actually pick it up from the UK or Europe. You should be fine. The 5G will be, I think, the most difference that you're going to notice there. I don't know, and I haven't heard anybody actually from a review standpoint that has tested it with 5G in Europe. Sorry, not in Europe. In Canada, I do know that in Europe they do have units, and they were able to test it out with 5G. But that's again the European model. But either way, you pick up the US variant or you pick up the either the Canadian, UK, or even the European model. I think it'll work fine. But just keep in mind, I think the best at that point will probably be 4G LTE on that one as well. So Jonathan Gao, considering the aperture is constant on the phone, how exactly does the S mode and the M mode differ from Photo Pro? Oh, I think it's more of the control on basically the fact that you're not switching cameras. So I think what Jonathan's mentioning here in the comment is when you're going into the actual camera, let's say you select the 24 millimeter in Photo Pro, and you're able to basically change between, let's say, from the 16, it basically goes from 16 to 24, and then the 24 goes from 24 to 70, and then the 70 millimeter goes from 70 all the way to 200 millimeter. So that's the adjustments there that you're able to do. The control that you're getting there within the Camera Pro app allows you to basically just control the other mode. So shutter priority will obviously stick the shutter, and you're able to focus on the other aspects, and as well as manual mode just opens up everything for you. So all the different aspects of control are not lockable. And then they also give you a lock option on the bottom right to enable you to basically to set whatever configuration that you have, so that your focus, your basically either your aperture, your ISO, all of those things are set. You lock them, and that way when you're moving, the device or the camera doesn't try to readjust, doesn't try to do auto mode automatically to try to focus it. And last but not least, I think you kind of mentioned at the beginning, it also has an automatic mode that starts it off. So you can either have it total automatic, the way a normal Sony Alpha camera has an auto mode on it. You can go shutter priority or manual mode. And I feel like manual will be much better for low light photography and basically, I would say tripod photography, because you're able to basically set it and, of course, start working with some of the functions and changing it from basically either single shot with autofocusing to multiple shot, the 20 frames per second shots. Those will always need certain level of control to get the best exposure. You don't want it running at auto mode when you're trying to take all those shots, especially if you're trying to focus and then set up some nice configurations in there. So it's a level of control that we just don't have with other devices. So that would be my thing right now. Trev Good, would you recommend the Xperia phone for someone that has never had an Xperia phone? Um, I would recommend it if, well, as as a general smartphone function, so normal, calls, video, consuming media, and so on, excluding the camera, absolutely, there's no question. I think it's fluid, it's minimalistic in the sense of the UI, it's fast. It has 8 gigs of RAM this year over last year's, I think was it 6 gigs, double the storage to 256, expandable storage with it, IP67, IP68, front-facing speakers, 4,000 milliamp battery. There's a lot of things to be set in the actual situation or in the configuration that you get to the Xperia 1 Mark II. If we're talking Mark II specific, the camera just takes it to the next level. My only thing I would say that kind of maybe just step back a little bit is the level of control that you're looking for on your camera. If you enjoy, taking pictures in more of an automatic mode, meaning you want more of a, I want to be able to take out my device, open up the camera, pointing to whatever I want to take a picture, tap on it, snap a pic, and move away. I feel like Sony will do a good enough job for you guys with that within the standard camera app. That's where the experience changes here with the Xperia 1 Mark II. It's to get the best experience out of that device, you really need to get comfortable with the Cinema Pro and the Camera Pro app and get to use the device with the physical shutter camera button that we have there. So it really depends on that experience. Are you going to get a great experience from a smartphone? Yes. Is it going to be a great experience on the cameras? Absolutely. Once you get comfortable with it and give yourself some time to learn how to use it, it's no different than when you pick up a maybe basically like a $300 or maybe $400 camera, SLR camera or DSLR, and then you decide to suddenly jump over to the $1,000 to $2,000 mark cameras. You're going to see the different levels of control and more improvements in quality as far as video and images. So definitely a great camera. The only downside I would say is that the front-facing camera not exactly the focus for this device. That's one of the things that they have. It's okay, but it's not going to be the best. Also, the native camera app does not support external audio. So something like what we were trying to do right now earlier with the microphone setup, that won't work, sadly. So hopefully that answered that question. Because sorry, work hard and get it yourself. It well, it depends. I'm not sure if you're answering me. Oh, you're answering. Okay. No, I understand that part. Um, the rack and focus on the Sony is one of the. It's one thing that has caught my eyes. Otherwise, the V60 fits all the other nerd requirements as Aditya's. So Aditya is commenting on the. So one of the features that we had on the Xperia 1 Mark II, and it actually is present also on the Xperia 1. If I can. here. I have the Xperia one with me. I'll just go ahead and fire it up. And that's basically the rack. Basically, the focus pull on this is something that you are, or the rack focus. You're able to set two different focus points on the camera whenever you're in the Cinema Pro application. And the beautiful part about it is you can actually set it so that you can actually pull focus as, basically as part of the shot. You're able to pull that focus and just get that buttery smooth focusing level on the device right out of the camera app. So really one of the best features. But again, you need to jump out of the standard camera app to be able to use that in Cinema Pro, where the V60 has that natively built in. Not that function, but all the Pro camera functionalities built into the camera app directly that comes in. V60 has one camera app. Even the Verse version of Sony Xperia 1, that one has two camera apps, the Cinema Pro and the standard camera app. So let's go ahead and bring it up here, and I'll give it a second to bring up here. So we'll jump over, not the white balancing. Oh no, we're going to jump here, set. I forgot about that one, focus. And let's go ahead and switch over to the top. Just kind of to show you guys what Aditya is talking about is the ability of setting two different focus points on the camera and pulling focus from one side to the other. So let's go ahead and do it here. So here is B. So we'll jump over here. If I can actually hit the button. So you can kind of see here, it jumps basically focusing from one side to the other, and you're able to set the focus point exactly to where you want and jump between one to the other. It's something that is unique to Sony right now, and it's something that we don't have with any other camera manufacturer camera manufacturer on the market. But LG definitely a very close second, I would say, there in the experience of what we're getting there. Arsenal Glasswell, Salam Tariq. I was wondering so to use the Sony earphones, the WF1000 and XM3s, I think these are this guys, fit well in ear cause my Samsung Galaxy Buds are very comfortable, but comfortable compared to the Icon X 2018. So Sony includes in the box a few things. They include the standard tips that most everybody uses, and for me, I found those to be a little bit loose, similar to that experience. And let me make sure these are clean. Especially whenever we do things that are close up to the ear, I need to make sure that you guys are not basically going to be like, dude, what the heck? You could have cleaned those things before we started the show. But let me see what we can do. So to answer your question, Arsenal, let's go ahead and switch over here. They also do include a silicone tip. This is actually more of a foam experience, so definitely much thicker, fits the ear, and it is much easier for me to use. And I use these with the XM3s all the time. So for both my earpieces, and I feel like these fit. So in the box, this is included as well as the regular, I would say, here we are. So the regular tips that are more closely resembling to the way we get them with the basically the Galaxy Buds. And these are the Galaxy Buds Plus. So if I had to kind of compare the audio quality right now between all of the headphones that I have in front of us here, we'll put the stuff for the RedMagic on the side. The Pixel Buds and the Pixel Buds 2 and the Galaxy Buds are both great. Let me just go ahead and put the comment away just so that we can actually see what's in the picture for everybody else here. So audio quality between these two are very, very similar. So audio experience on these is very nice. Difference is battery life on this is much shorter. These will last you longer. Both have wireless charging. Both have a very small pill-shaped size, and both charge via USB-C. I feel like the EQ's configuration on the Galaxy Buds Plus definitely sounds better, gives you the ability to configure the audio a little bit more, where the Pixel Buds 2 definitely sound great out of the box by themselves. The fit on these are very, very nice and very small. So comparing sizes real quick, you can see there is basically a difference in thickness. I mean, this is much smaller, and you can obviously see that attributes to a smaller battery. That's also why the battery doesn't last as long. For me, even to this day, with these guys in the box, as well as the other two that we have here, so this is the Liberty 2 Pro, this is the Sound Core. They sound great battery life, easy wireless charging, all of the cool things. But none of these guys offer active noise canceling in the way the Sony pairs do. These do a much better job from that point of reference, as well as audio playback with basically the 360 audio supported directly with, let's say, Tidal or Deezer. So those are going to work for you a lot better. The fit is fixable as long as you basically, again, use the same tips that I'm using. These will fit you much better, and they have a little bit more control, and they don't feel as wobbly as the one that actually come in the box. So absolutely, I think the XM3s are worth it, and I'm happy that they're able to provide these. but it also, I wish they were also giving us the option of getting the standard version, the over the ear version, because I feel like those were great with the Xperia One, and I did pick those up as well last year, and I've been using them every time I travel. They're actually right there on my desk, always. So El Jefe reviews. Hey man, I didn't see El Jefe. Man, oh man, hey, good morning, El Jefe. Welcome to the chat, man. Gary. Mom, man. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, El Jefe is literally one of the other, I would say, audio sources when it comes to headphones, as far as expertise testing it. Jeff and I got a chance to hang out for a very short time one evening in San Francisco back in February doing Samsung Unpacked. And it's been a really good friendship since then. Of course, a great friend of the show, as well as Juan Carlos, and everybody, as you guys know, appreciates having him in the actual feed. So welcome, El Jefe. And if you're looking for any kind of headphone reviews and so on, I think most of the ones even I'm showing you guys today, he has already covered them. And I'm trying also, Jeff, if you're still in the live stream, I'm trying to see if I'm able to talk to Mobvoi about that new TicPods, or I forgot the name of them, but they're coming out with their own active noise canceling in ear now, as opposed to just the Apple AirPod style stuff. So really good. Does the notification LED have multiple colors? No. Radu, I'm assuming you're talking about the Xperia 1 Mark II. It only has one color. It's just the yellowish tint color for notification. I did not install the color option. There are apps on the Google Play Store that enable us to configure it. I didn't think of trying that out at the time. I was mostly happy that we had a notification LED light, as that also seemed to be something that disappears. But if I'll see if I can actually I'll ask Juan Carlos and see if he still has his unit, because his timing was also very much roughly around the same as mine, so he may not have his anymore. Sarah, so OnePlus Bullets 2 or the Bullets Z for the OnePlus 7 Pro? If you're able to afford it, I would go with the OnePlus Bullets 2. Much better audio quality, and the audio latency was not that much. Sorry, the OnePlus Bullet Zs are not that much better than the 2 when it came to the audio latency. So very much a very similar experience. I feel like you'd have a much better audio performance as well as enjoyment out of this for listening to music, watching movies, as well as gaming on the OnePlus 7 Pro. Definitely much better choice there. Aditya, Matt Tyler. Oh, okay. I'm unable to pick it up. Oh, pick it up in it. Okay. I think that was a comment for somebody else, but sorry for jumping in. And let me jump here. Okay, so Arsenal. Yes, so I think that was what we were talking about before. And then we saw that El Jefe jump in. Hey, guys, here. Does Wi-Fi calling work on the Xperia 1 Mark II? For me on T-Mobile, it seemed like it was working fine. I didn't have any problems with it, but on AT&T, it would not activate. So there was no way of turning it on. I feel like this is something that we're going to probably start seeing more and more as time goes on. I think the way T-Mobile implements it, it's more closely functioning to the way Android uses it, where AT&T for some reason needs special configuration. And I don't think, like when you install a SIM card in an unlocked device, T-Mobile sends the configuration data over to configure the device. AT&T does not anymore. They used to tell me that I'm not using the correct configuration, but they used to send me the configuration, and that's been changing. I think we've seen that also with OnePlus devices, where they recommend you purchasing the OnePlus 8 directly from AT&T, as the OnePlus 8 Pro unlocked or 8 unlocked doesn't seem to work as well on AT&T with at least 5G when it comes to their 5G bands. Vishal Gupta, help me. Okay, let me. Yes. Let me. Okay, see. Okay. Question here, Ravi. So TK, the Xperia 1 Mark II US via U, so basically the two different, it uses a hybrid SIM. Did you try using the two SIMs? So for me, I tried fitting in the second SIM and it did not fit. I know it's supposed to basically the hybrid SIM option. The configuration in the device did not support two SIM cards on my device. It only had configuration for one SIM. So and the box actually, if I'm not mistaken, only had one IMEI on it. So it didn't really even have an option to use the secondary slot for it to run as a second SIM. It pretty much was a SIM/SD card, not a SIM SD/SIM card or SD. I haven't been able to test it out. Now the global website showed that it is a single SIM. So for me, I think that's what it essentially is. Possibly some people may have set the I guess that it was a hybrid SIM or so on, mostly because of depending on what version they're using. Also, depends on, again, by the time it becomes available on the market, what we have are pre-production units. It doesn't matter if it looks like it's new. It doesn't matter if it looks like it's the retail model. All of them are pre-production. All of them will basically be slightly different than what the final market one will be. So what I would definitely say is look for what Sony is officially announcing, because those are going to be what's going to come out in the final retail. Any kind of additional features, it has to be built into the operating system. If it doesn't support dual SIM, even if you're physically able to put the SIM card in the second part as a hybrid SIM, the device won't recognize it because either the hardware is not there or even just basically the system isn't designed to use it. So I hopefully that kind of answers your question there, Ravi. Would you please would you please recommend to Sony to talk with Netflix and Amazon Prime to enable 4K videos? So just as a heads up on this, the Sony Xperia 1 has those functionalities. The Xperia 1 Mark II isn't out yet. So yes, in the sense of what you're looking there, I can say this. There was another bug that I was able to find during the process of my testing with the Xperia 1 Mark II, where Sony, and you guys will see that in the video next week, where if you launch a video on Netflix in full screen and you basically go home, so you swipe up to go home, it's supposed to pop up in a pop-up window for us to be able to enjoy the video. That problem right now is there's a software issue where the video kind of blocks half the video, half the screen. So the longer form, you'll take top part of the display. And the video keeps playing, but you don't have a way of really interfacing with it. And when you try to swipe back home, the pop-up window stays at the bottom right and the video is on. So there's some issues with it. But again, I will say this, and I really want you to keep in mind, none of the devices on the market right now available from reviewers are final. So by the time it becomes available, it will be settled. You'll be able to do 4K. Netflix is one of the apps that automatically turn on the creator mode, and it is going to be supported, and they have been testing it. So we are going to be able to get 4K and obviously be able to enjoy it. As again, they did it before, and we've seen it with the Xperia 1. It's not a question of if, it's a question of when. And I think at the time, by the time the device is available on the market, that problem will not be there. Again, they have some time, almost the end of July, to fix that problem. But I am aware of what you're talking about. Most reviewers right now have quoted that they're able at best to be able to get HD, so 1080p on it and no 4K. But I do know that I have tested 4K on the Xperia 1 with Prime Video, and I know it works. So from a hardware standpoint, it is capable. It's a compatibility concern. Okay, so Ayush has a question here. So, hi, I'm currently using the ROG Phone 2. Matt Tyler, your phone is in the in the chat. Really excited about the Pixel 4a. Are you looking forward to it? And do you think it will have wireless charging? So, from the Pixel, we're talking about the Pixel 4a. Hopefully, that's going to be coming out in the month or so, or in the next month. Actually, I think we're already in June. To my understanding, from the price point that they're trying to offer, I don't think wireless charging will be on the market. I think with the Pixel line of devices, or at least the Pixel 4a or the A series, I always feel like those are going to be more of a budget friendly, much more budget focused, with a great performance. Basically, the 7 series, the 765, obviously, hopefully will give us a good 5G compatibility here in the US. But I think wireless charging at that price point would probably, even if it is done, will not be one of the better ones. I think wired charging will always be better. Since we do support PD on it, it's going to be much better for us. And I think if they don't include it, it's not a problem. And if they do, it's always going to be a nice bonus. But from what I'm understanding at this point, at least, is that it's one of those things that we wish it will be there, but we'll have to see how that works. But not to forget that the ROG Phone 2, I think it's a boss device to say a few things. 6,000 milliamp battery, 120 hertz display, 1080p, absolutely one of the better. It is actually still one of my favorite gaming phones today. One of my best purchases that I've done in 2019 as well. So Johnny, does the Xperia 1 offer pay options like Samsung Pay at the store checkout? They support Google Pay. So yes, they support Google Pay, but they don't offer their own proprietary. So Sony doesn't have their own on this device. It's purely just Android Pay, and they don't support other applications. So you won't be able to use other companies. So pretty much basically Google Pay, and it does have an NFC tag that's present right next to the camera on the left side, similar to the way we've seen it last year. What do you think about the graphene battery? Will most of the brands be able to pick up graph? I think at this point it's more of an experimentation. I think it's an option of giving us better or other technologies available. I think if you see the different manufacturer approach to battery, basically battery life or battery health, or even battery types, we see Oppo going in with, splitting up the battery into two different, two different smaller batteries and charging them fast. We see OnePlus trying to basically provide us the fastest charging on these devices, with basically trying to keep them as cool as possible. And then we also see what Sony's trying to do with the HS Control, the heat suppression function in gaming, to give us a longer battery life. So at the end of the day, I think we haven't had enough time, and enough manufacturers basically adopting one technology over the other for us to actually start appreciating one and seeing if it's going to last us more. But it is definitely something that it's being used. I just wish we had more information to see if it's worth being something to switch over on entirely. Vikash, so I have the P30 Pro, so the Huawei P30 Pro and the 11 Pro. So great cameras, two different manufacturers. You have a Huawei P30 Pro and, of course, the 11 Pro. And I'm assuming that's the 11 Pro from Apple. I'm not sure which 11 Pro you have. Both have great cameras. I love the night mode on the P30 Pro. Do you think that the night mode is basically becoming day mode nowadays? Aren't we losing the originality? Yeah. So I think Huawei still has a lot of technology and a lot of focus done on the night mode functionalities. I think Apple's come a long way in the sense of what they've done in night photography to be able to boost the colors, boost the light, and increase the ISO levels to get us those sharp images. But I think Huawei still has the king setup here. They started it. They started the handheld night mode without needing a tripod. They also started with the handheld, obviously, wide angle lens, telephoto lens, and standard focal length night mode, as well as in night mode in video, so on. There's a lot of things going on, and I feel like Huawei does a lot of good things there. Having it become more of a standard is a good thing for us, but I don't feel like it's done right with having it as an option in your camera doesn't necessarily mean that it's done right. Right now, I feel like the P30 Pro is definitely one of the greatest. The P40 Pro obviously is also giving us some great experiences. I have to say that I am super, super surprised with the way P40 is performing. Hopefully, I'll be able to get my hands on the P40 Pro, the P40 Pro Plus. Got to work on those names. In the near future, I'll be able to share some more information for you guys as well. The F is F, or is it just from? I'm thinking you're answering somebody else, Gary. Yeah, okay, just you. Disregard. Matt and Gary just razzing each other. Pixel's night mode basically turns into daytime. It's too much. I think at the end of the day, yeah. I mean, it's great to be able to take photography at night and be able to basically turn night to day. But is it a usable image? Is it something that you're going to basically share and say, look what I was able to see? I think it's a great thing to be able to take an image of. I think low light photography for me is much more appreciated. I think it's a better way to apply it than it is to try to turn night into day. It's a great trick to show somebody. It's like, look what I can see kind of thing. But at the end of the day, from a sharing kind of an image, taking an image of something in this room, when I turn off the main light, I have a little bit of lighting in there, or maybe good enough light, but not enough for it to basically highlight the subject. I think those are going to be a little bit more functional. But I still believe, I think, Huawei does a really good job. The P series of devices are very much focused on photography. The P is for photography. So definitely really good. So Muhammad Reza, he says, how long does it take to charge the Xperia 1 and the the Xperia Mark II with the 18-watt charger? It takes about an hour and I want to say an hour and 40 minutes or so. That's how long it took me. And it's mostly because of the way the charging is done on the battery. It's not that it cannot charge the device fast. It's just that at some point, once it reaches over 50%, it slows down quite a bit. So that was the experience you want to keep in mind. Sony's very much about battery health. It's trying not to overheat the battery. It's trying to allow it to last longer. So fast charging, or basically thinking of it, it needs to be done in 30 minutes, 45 minutes, or an hour. Those are things that are very functional. But I feel like at the end of the day, having more time to charge the battery and have the battery last you longer for the amount of years, 1 or 2 years, that will always be more appreciated. So, Hamid Reza, hopefully that answers the question. It's not the fastest, but it's definitely the healthiest for the battery and should last you a lot more. Very nice. Do you think that the Pixel 5 will go cheaper to get access to other markets? Right now, the way the markets, the way Sony, sorry, switching over to the way Pixel, or at least Google, is going in with it. I feel like the Pixel 5, if the rumors are true and the Pixel 5 does not carry a flagship processor, meaning we don't see it with this 865, we see it more with the 7 series, or even yet if we see it with more of a first generation Samsung SoC. I think the price point will be a little bit lower, but it's not going to be at the level where we're going to see that it is at the Pixel 4a or the 3a level of price point. So somewhere around the 700 to 800, kind of price point. And it's mostly because of just the amount of things that they're doing into it. They generally release the Pixel at the time where they're trying to basically prove concept of what the version of Android. So Android 11 will shine on the Pixel 5. That's the pure intention of what the Pixel 5 is going to do. What I would appreciate more with the Pixel 5, if they do bring it in, is finally enabling us to use external displays, like enabling the MHL functionality on it, so that we can use the Android 11 or Android 10 desktop experience on a Pixel device, because currently we cannot. Even though it is in there, we have to use other devices that support it to be able to use these type of functionalities. So hopefully the price point will be right, and then of course, hopefully they do provide it with other markets outside of just the I think US and Europe, which I feel like that's what they generally do in the past. Sorry, did I jump that one? Please make a video on on Sony Weena smartwatch. Okay, I have to look that one up. I haven't seen much about it. It hasn't really, we don't have it in the US. I think in the US they haven't really put it out, but I will definitely get a chance to. But if you can give me a link to that, definitely, preferably on Twitter, that'll be the best. I'll definitely check that out. I am currently using the the Samsung S9 Plus. Should I wait for the OnePlus Z or 8 Lite? If you're using the S9 Plus, I think, so first and foremost, my mom has the S9 Plus. Absolutely great device, and Samsung's been upgrading it great. I think if you're looking to upgrade to a device, personally, from a sense of what you're capable of doing there, I think the 8 would be a better choice for you, not even the 8 Lite. Now, if you're trying to stay within the price point of basically seeing obviously the more affordable price point, I think we probably, if you're waiting long enough, because the 8 was supposed to, or the 8 Lite was supposed to be released somewhere around June, July. I would wait to look maybe around when the 8T comes out, and then at that point pick up an 8, just a full regular 8, mostly because of the functions that you get there, the bigger battery, the faster charging. There are going to be some compromises with the price point that comes with OnePlus. They're not going to give you an 8 at the price point of what the lower level of the 8 or the 8Z, or sorry, the 8 Lite or the Z are going to be. So just keep in mind that some compromises will be done there. And I think if you set your sights more towards the 8, you'll get a better experience, mostly because of the S9 Plus. You're looking at a much bigger display than what your normal devices are. And of course, you're looking at great cameras there and a fast fingerprint sensor. And I think the 8 answers a lot of those questions. Until we see the Z or the 8 Lite, it's hard to answer that question right now. Sorry. Hopefully that gave you the answer that you're looking for. Are there any low latency true wireless headphones right now? Ariane, right now, the lowest ones that I've been able to find Bluetooth wise. So I'm assuming that you're talking, obviously, when you say wireless, you're talking Bluetooth, not necessarily like proprietary adapters and so on. From that sense, the Wireless Bullet Z is the lowest I've been able to see on any device. There's still some latency. There's no way right now that, and I'm saying right now, that Bluetooth can compare with a physical wired connection to get that latency factor in there. But the Wireless Bullet Z were gone very close, specifically if you are running Fanatic mode on a OnePlus device. It does get a little bit, it loses a little bit on the latency, meaning it gains a little more on the latency factor when you switch over to a non-OnePlus device. But I feel like that's always going to be the challenge with Bluetooth or wireless connectivity. Unless you go to proprietary type of connection, which at that point you need a dongle, it's not as functional. I feel like that's the reason why, if we really think about it, gaming phones always include a headphone jack, because they know their market. They know that people need low latency or no latency gaming on devices. Even when they're running 144 hertz display, they'll give you a headphone jack because that's going to give you the best gaming experience. So I would recommend you going in that route. If you're able to do so, if you're not, get an adapter and use a wired connection over Bluetooth. If you're truly dedicated and very much focused on the latency factor there. Yes, no, I appreciate it, Mohammed Reza. Matt, TK, how's the mic on the Xperia when recording video? Last year wasn't great. Improvements were needed. So in the few videos that I've posted from the Xperia 1 Mark II, I think if there was one thing that I noticed a lot of people commented on is the fact that the mic performance was great. On Tuesday, I think was it Tuesday or Monday, I posted that video where we did the comparison audio using the Ceramonic, not the Ceramonic, the Comica microphone, the USB-C one. Uh, the audio on them are actually really good. The wind reduction is built in really nice, and you can actually kind of turn it on and off. But overall performance from the mics, very nice. They do a great job of isolating the subject. I feel like they just don't work as well as a front-facing, basically anything that's a cardioid microphone that's facing you directly. You're always going to feel the performance there that's a lot better. But definitely by comparison to the Xperia 1, way better. Not only just from the way they sound, but also with the wind reduction. They definitely did a much better wind reduction function in there, built in directly into the actual system. Ahmed Wael, Galaxy Buds or Pixel Buds for sound quality, which one do you prefer? If we look at them just from the way they sound, I would say they're both the same. There's no question that I've used them for over a week. They both sound the same. Where they differ is the processing that's done on the back end. And I mean by that is the Galaxy Buds application or Samsung's Galaxy Wear application has a built-in EQ function that enables you to tune the audio experience outside of any native Dolby Atmos or anything like that that's built into your smartphone. So from that sense, you're able to tune the Buds Plus a little bit more than you can the Pixel Buds. But when you flip it over on the other end, the Pixel Buds, I've actually been able to wear them for a long amount of time, like 3 hours straight without feeling that they're in my ear, actually even forgetting that they're there. But audio performance sounds really good. Oh, touch response on the Pixel Buds, I feel like is much, much better, much faster response time. Ability of controlling volume on it is also very nice, natively supported. You don't have to turn on an experimental feature to touch the edge of the Pixel Buds. So if I had to put them neck and neck and we didn't need to worry too much about audio tuning, I feel like the Pixel Buds for me are a win. Smaller form factor, easier to fit in your ears, and I would say easily forgettable in the ears. I mean, easily losable as well. So you're able to lose both of these very, very quickly with that true wireless. But an example would be here. So there is the Pixel Bud. It's in my ear. You can barely hear it. You can barely see it even sitting there. And then if we just switch over to the Galaxy Buds Plus, again, Samsung's, you can put it in, and very much same profile, very much easier. And I'm actually listening to music here. But I feel like they're much bigger and they tend to be a little bit heavier after an extended session. They do have a bigger battery, so that was the other thing I would say. The Pixel Buds won't last as long as the Galaxy Bud. The Galaxy Buds are thicker, but they carry a bigger battery and they have longer playback. So it's really more of I would say basically a mathematical equation of which factor is more important to you. If you're picking up a new pair of headphones and you have a Pixel device, it's going to work great. If that was the other thing. The camera, it's not the camera. The app for the Pixel Buds does not exist on iOS. So if you're thinking of picking them up and using them on an iPhone, they're just going to work standard-wise the way a normal iPhone pair of headphones work. On Android, you're able to use the dedicated app that was made by Google. So I'm not sure if that also plays a factor for you, but I'm hoping that answers your question there. Sorry if you answered it already. Does the 5G work 100%? So no, it doesn't work 100%. It doesn't work at all in the US. It works in Europe. So European market, yes, 100%. UK market, European, yes. US market, no 5G. It does not support 5G. And I'm hoping that you're referring to the question that we had before. Hi. Is it two? Okay. I think that's probably asking the same question there. So hopefully that answers it for you. Vikash Ahmed Wael, have not used the Pixel, but okay. So Vikash is answering the question for you, Ahmed. Hopefully that gives you the answer there as well. Matt, Matt Tyler, pretty much kind of repeating, right there. No 5G in the US version at all for the Xperia 1 Mark II. That's sadly, unfortunately, not an option right now. No idea. I don't know. And I've asked, so sorry, Monkey Boy's asking real quick, why is there no 5G in the US? Honestly, I don't have an answer from Sony. I don't have a way of figuring out exactly why. The best guess that I can probably say maybe compatibility and not having to basically trying to conform the device to carriers. So basically making it truly more of an unlocked version of that device. I don't know. I don't know realistically. There is no carrier version of this device in the US, where we've had devices from Sony in the past that did, not recent past. I'm talking even way fast in the past. But I'm hoping that we'll see what they do with the Xperia Pro. If it does truly support 5G on Verizon, how does that work, and how much influence does Verizon have into the design of the device? When you pick up an Xperia 1 Mark II, US or European, the device aesthetically looks unique, and it is very much a Sony design without any carrier bloatware or anything like that. So you're really getting a pure experience of what Sony wants you to get. The Xperia Pro, if it does end up becoming a Verizon one, we are going to obviously see some Verizon flavoring into that device, and that could be good. And depending on your preference. Here, how do you find the base quality through the phone dynamics? I'm not through the phone dynamic. I'm not sure what you mean. I'm thinking. I'm assuming you're talking about the speakers on the Xperia 1 Mark II. Please let me know. The speakers on them actually are not bad. They're not as loud as some of the other devices I've seen, but with the fact that we have Dolby, the fact that they're front facing, they seem louder. And from the experience, the way the 21:9 aspect ratio, because the device. I think Juan Carlos did that to me last week. He's like, put the device up to you. So look at the way the device is set up. The speakers are ever so nicely positioned to where my ears are, and the device, the display, is pretty much in the frame of eyesight that we see on the phone when we're actually using it. So when you think of that, and you think of the fact that now the Xperia 1 Mark II has true stereo speakers that are front-facing, those are going to be things that you appreciate more when you're listening and enjoying content. So I'm hoping that's the question you're asking. Please let me know if I totally was off base on that one. Nightshot, loved it. Want to be, I always want to be friends. I'm friends with all of you, and I appreciate your support here, man. I appreciate it. Works with the OnePlus 7 Pro. Oh, sorry, I keep wanting to jump into people's conversations. Are you? We'll be able to see more gaming phones in the US. I want to see more of these devices being released. Yes, I feel like there's a big market of gamers. So gaming for me for the longest time, and I'm not saying, obviously I've used mobile devices to game for quite some time, but until the recent year where we started to see dedicated phones. So obviously, we started first with the Razer phone, the Razer Phone 2. Then we had the ROG Phone 2, both of those gaming specific. And those are pretty much mostly what we saw in the US. And then last year, we started seeing Nubia jumping into the game with the Nubia 3, the RedMagic 3 there, the RedMagic 3S. And then this year with the RedMagic 5G, those are gaming phones that are truly, pushing the limit in what we can do with, I would say, almost top-notch hardware with a good price point. Now, the problem with this is, I think, with more people focusing on cameras on devices nowadays, where they really want a camera on the device to perform. Everybody wants a $500 phone that has the camera of a $1,500 phone. I think that's always going to be kind of like the best case scenario. Obviously, that gem that we're able to find. And I feel like gaming phones provide us a great gaming experience, but kind of an okay, somewhat of a, as long as it's in great light, it should do well kind of an experience on a camera. And I think that's maybe that's one of the reasons why we haven't seen a lot of jump into that. Also, gaming tend to appeal more to a very small niche market. Not everybody wants a, high refresh rate display on a large battery with the stereo speakers, with the headphones. A lot of people want a smaller form factor. And something like the Xperia 1 Mark I, or the first Xperia 1, you're getting that sleek design, long form factor, easy to hold with one hand, and of course, cinema-wide display, 4K panel, all of the things that you appreciate on a smartphone. But they want to be able to do that and then still game. So I feel like it's going to be an interesting compromise to see what they're able to do. I do know that the RedMagic 5G sells on Amazon, as well as the ROG Phone 2 and the obviously I think the Razer Phone 2. And those are great gaming devices, each providing you a slightly different experience. ROG Phone 2, still a boss gaming phone, 6,000 milliamp battery, 120 hertz refresh rate, front-facing speakers, great audio, great interfaces, accessories galore. I think, I want to see more. I will never say no. Here, so Matt Tyler's question here is, my Galaxy Fold S20 Ultra and Pixel 4a Xperia and OnePlus McLaren 8, OnePlus, oh, that's right. He has the OnePlus 7T McLaren edition and the 8 Pro all have Android 10.0. Oh, that's right. And then the Nubia Z20 is the only one still stuck on Android 9. Why does Nubia not releasing? Why was it released in August? I think that's partially because of the I haven't. So I've reached out to just kind of a little bit of background information. Matt and I have been talking about trying to find an Android, more of like a GSI based, basically, I would say more of a stock version of Android that will run, and provide some of the features that you're able to get out of the Nubia Z20. And the Z20 is a unique device that Nubia put out last year. It has two displays. It has a front-facing 1080p panel and it has a 720p panel, slightly smaller on the back. Gave you the ability, smaller resolution. And what you got there essentially is that you're able to use one set of cameras, the primary shooter cameras on the device as the primary cameras for the front-facing camera or the back-facing camera. Although they also still included some kind of a only 1080p front-facing video for some reason, even though it's the same camera sensor that they use to be able to record 4K. Those are certain things that they decided to do, but then at some point they stopped supporting the device. Updates for it was also very limited, and I'm not sure what kind of happened. I feel like Nubia is focusing so much on the RedMagic 5G with the updates, because in the amount of time that I've had mine, and I think I have maybe a week left with that, I've received 3 updates, almost 3 to 4 updates on this device. They're trying to get things updated, changed, and improved on it. So I feel like I'm not sure why the Z20 didn't get the love. There is some development going around with the Z20. There is no official Android 10.0 build. There is more of a stock Android experience that is built in, which unfortunately hasn't been tested enough, and not all the features are working on it. So the problem with this is it's not necessarily as open source as you would want them to be. So the kernel source and all of that information hasn't been basically officially made available, especially when you're talking about jumping from one version of Android to another. So Android 10 for that is a little bit harder. And I wish there would be more updates, especially to be able to kind of get that running for you. But as soon as I hear anything back, I'll let you know, Matt, and hopefully we'll be able to get things going. But definitely check the XDA forum. There is one thread there. If you're willing and you're comfortable testing it out, there is one ROM there that is based on Android 10. Unfortunately, it hasn't been tested with that many people, and I haven't seen many that have be able to. Well, I don't know anybody that has had the time to test it. Unfortunately, I can't. I would have loved to be able to help you out with that one. And as far as I remember, Juan Carlos doesn't have his anymore. So I think you're the only one who has it. If you're adventurous and you want to be able to check it out, there's something there to be able to check out, as well as they also have a recovery tool there to be in case there is any problems. Okay. Okonkwo, hopefully I'm saying that correctly. In what way do you think that the iPhone 11 Pro Max would outdo the Xperia 1? Oh, okay. I think if there's one way I can say that the 11 Pro Max performs well or better is in the way they do their color, the color science right now, the way it's done, and the ability of jumping between lenses and still getting the same color science. Basically, the color tuning on the device is done very well. We also have 4K 60 on the front-facing camera, which I feel like the Xperia 1 Mark II kind of, for the most part, is not really focusing on the front-facing camera. They're treating the Xperia 1 Mark II as an SLR, or as a DSLR, as an A7 III, which does not have an included front-facing camera. But since it has one, they gave it some functions. But again, I feel like it's not the main system design behind that device. Where I feel like the 11 Pro Max outshines it when it comes to video in that sense. From an automatic mode, snapping pictures, I feel like the 11 Pro, offers us a good experience, and it's good enough for video for 4K 60 on all of their lenses, regardless if it's the wide angle lens, the standard focal length, or the front facing lens. So those are things that I feel like if you're on an iPhone or you're using the 11 Pro Max, you feel like those are going to be something that you appreciate. Where we see the Xperia 1 Mark II thrive and basically just blow some of the other competitions on the market is the fact that the level of control that you do get there, it is very much an experience of an SLR. Like I'm using a GH5 for this video with you guys. I use basically the A7 III as well. Those are cameras that you don't expect to basically just turn on auto mode and things are going to work. You need to focus on the project. You need to focus on how you're composing your subject, how you're composing your shot, the lighting, the aperture, the focus, where all of the stuff that you're doing. Those are things that you can control with the Xperia 1 Mark II. The 11 Pro Max doesn't have that. And it's not even a focus of Apple. So a little bit of a different experience, but depends on what you're looking for. more automatic with good enough quality and obviously 4K 60, or do you want to get 4K 60 with that true cinema-wide functionality, working on a project, controlling it, external audio usage, as well as the ability of basically using that all the way from 16 to 200 millimeter focal, a different lens setup with a true setup of what most photographers use when they go out. Basically the trinity of camera lenses in most photographers' bag. So I appreciate that, and I always see that as a very good benefit there. Oh, Neem, hey, welcome, man. Welcome. Thank you. We've got the bot in the chat. Oh, Nightbot, Nightbot 2.0. Man, I didn't think I didn't think I was going to be that popular. Let me see. Do we have? Yeah, I think that's what it was. Yes. Well, we don't have that bot anymore. I appreciate that. Yeah, I think I've seen the comments before. I kept scrolling. Okay, so let me see what we have here. Sorry, trying to go through. Does it support the 21 watt fast charging? Yes, it does support. The Xperia 1 2 does support 21 watt PD fast charging. Unfortunately, they included only an 18 one in the box. So I would say if you have a faster PD charger, this is going to be fine. Yeah, you'll see the benefit of that as well. Because of 5G isn't still a thing here in the States. Miguel, I feel like it depends on where you're looking. I mean, if you look at all of the marketing within the last 6 months, 5-6 months, at the end of 2019, with T-Mobile's releasing their what's it called, the McLaren 7T Pro edition that I picked up with them, it's picking up. Now, I think almost anything that comes out that, I feel like they want to just throw 5G on everybody. I mean, all of T-Mobile's commercials are 5G, and we're still somewhat in the beginning phase of it. We hear the word, and to us, I think as a consumer, we always assume, well, I need to have 5G on my phone because that's going to future-proof my device, and it's going to make it work, and it's going to make sure that it works great for me. And at the end of the day, that could be true. It can actually provide you some future-proofing in the sense of access to certain bands. It doesn't really make the device much more, I would say, valuable. I would say it's more of a functionality of making us feel more comfortable as a future-proof. But at the end of the day, 4G LTE, at least within the next 3 to 4 years, is not going anywhere. We're still going to be able to use it. The speeds on 4G LTE could actually top close to 200 megabits down, depending on where you are. Understand that 4G LTE is no longer HSPA plus, which is what we used to get, that 3 to 12 megabits down. We can get all the way up to 200 on 4G LTE. I got that test when I was doing my speed test in Maui last year during the Qualcomm Summit, and I had some of my friends using 5G, and they were getting 300-400 megabits down. I was getting 200 on T-Mobile with 4G LTE, and that is pretty fast for us here in the US. So to answer Miguel's statement there, I think you're right. We are at the infancy of what the 5G has to offer. It is still changing. It is not 100% done. And my hope is with T-Mobile and Sprint's merger, we'll definitely get better performance. So here, question. So we have TK. What are your thoughts on the Exynos versus Snapdragon saga with the Samsung Galaxy S20? I think, and we've talked about this a few times in the past. I think Matt can definitely help me out with that one as well. So I think some of the concerns that we've seen right now is I think Samsung. There's a lot of S's in this conversation. I think right now the way things are, the reality is the Snapdragon variant is outperforming the Exynos from just not only benchmarks, but also just day-to-day activity. And actual people have tested out both devices, and I can see the benefit of the Snapdragon variant. Not sure what the limiting factor is. It is hardware-based. They're both 7 nanometer, but it seems for some reason the Exynos, at least the last couple of generations, haven't been really up the same level, basically up to the same level. I'm not going to say that they're bad. It's just that when you compare SoCs and the way the performance is done, and if you've had the opportunity to use both systems, you'll notice that battery life on the Exynos wasn't as good as the Qualcomm, where, believe it or not, there was a point in time where Exynos used to outperform the Snapdragon variant. So again, hard to explain why. Testing has shown that there is a performance difference between the two, that the Snapdragon definitely works better. And my thought at the end of the day would be is if you're having problems with an SoC where it's not providing the same experience, why not just go full bore and then basically focus on and stay with the Qualcomm everywhere? Is it a licensing? Is it a cost effectiveness? Because at the end of the day, the price point doesn't really change much when it goes from the US to Europe. So I'm not sure. And it's not something that we're able to fix easily software wise, even if you try to overclock. At the end of the day, I feel like Exynos is more, well, I would say developer friendly, easily accessible as far as being able to unlock devices, trying to start getting development on devices like that right away over what Qualcomm's been doing. So there's a pros and cons to that conversation. But at the end of the day, I hope that they get a chance to fix that as well. How's the haptic feedbacks on the Xperia? Oh, absolutely amazing. The DualShock 4 built in, very, very nice. The vibration motor definitely feels very strong and very capable. Overall, for me, I've been enjoying it when I turn on the vibration mode, especially when watching content, let's say games, playing games, or even watching movies. So very nice. It has been improved over last year's Xperia 1 for sure. Aditya had a question. Hey, we've got... Oh, yeah, sorry. Hey, and we're back in the chat. Yeah, here you are. Sorry. And that caused that. So Nightbot 2, you're blocked. Sorry. You went from being kind of funny to I don't know what happened, man. So let's jump back here. Yes. Yes. Yeah, I went ahead and did that. Hopefully that kind of blocks it in here. I don't know if it's going to... I'm not sure if StreamYard has something to do where it doesn't actually work as well, because they were able to jump back in. Here. So let's jump in real quick here. What's your thought on the Snapdragon? Okay. So the S20 Snapdragon versus the OnePlus Snapdragon, where the S20 Snapdragon outperforms one of the... Okay, so I think we're referring to just the general S20, Samsung S20 line of devices over the OnePlus devices. When we say outperforms, in my testing and using both of these devices, unless you're talking about Snapdragon versus Exynos, OnePlus has outperformed Samsung for me. I feel like the UI on OnePlus is much lighter. And I'm not talking benchmarks only. I mean, we can obviously run a benchmark on any device and get a synthetic benchmark, but true usage of a device on a day in and day out, the ability of using QHD with 120 frames per second on the OnePlus 8 Pro or 90 hertz for refresh rate on the 1080p panel of the OnePlus 8 are always going to be appreciated. And OnePlus runs their entire ecosystem on speed. I feel like the OnePlus performance-wise on a day-to-day usage is much faster. The UI is much lighter, closer to a stock Android experience, and still has a lot of customization options. Where for some reason Samsung's UI, not that it's not fast, it's a lot better than what we've seen in the past, but I don't personally feel like it actually outperforms OnePlus at this point. Samsung has done a lot to improve their speed, but I feel like from just a pure usage functionality, and me actually, and I'm not trying to basically say one over the other because I don't actually use them, but I actually, sorry, let me just kind of point out to what I'm talking about. I use both of these devices, both of our Snapdragon. I can tell you right now, I prefer the 8 Pro over the S20 from the sense of usability on the UI. Understanding that both have Snapdragon processors. Also, keep in mind that whichever version of the S20 that you pick up, the more RAM you get, the better it's going to perform. And OnePlus out of the box just throws a bucket load of RAM at you, which will help always make the experience run much, much faster. So I had to gift Apple Watch to my father mainly because of the ECG. Yes, so the ECG functionality that's built in. Shall I save the money and give him a Series 4, or should I gift the Series 5? I think if the function of the ECG is something that you want to keep in mind is important for you, also keep in mind that the Series 5 does have additional improvements over the bigger display, so maybe easier to read for your father. So it depends on those little functionalities. I feel like those are things you want to consider with that. I feel like the Series 5 is definitely a good enough of an upgrade, more from a Series 3. But if you didn't have another Apple Watch before, I personally would say with the Series 5, it is much better. Also, keep in mind longevity, update cycles. Those are things that you want to keep in mind with your dad, especially when you want to give a piece of hardware that you don't want to worry too much down the road. Unless, again, there's issues. But again, newer will always carry you much further. Sorry. Oh, Adrian, sorry I'm late. I appreciate it. Thank you. Showing some love for myself and Juan Carlos, some gadget guy. Loved it. Want to be friends? Yes, Matt, Tyler, and I are going to be friends. We're going to have to. We'll set up. The band hammer. Yes. No, appreciate it. Yeah, no, it didn't jump at me right away, and I can see now, yeah, they're trying to go back in and try to post more comments in there. Oh man, ROG Phone 2, Aditya. Yes, no, I know. And Matt knows that we don't bring in the ROG Phone 2 just for the sake of kicking it. I think it's a great phone, man. It's a great device. Um, so battery life on that, I think I answered that earlier, but real quick synopsis. About 4.5 hours of screen on time. This is with 4K video watching and gaming on it. I think it started at 6 a.m. in the morning, ended about 9:30 to 10 p.m. with 15% left. So not the best, but not the worst, and definitely a lot better than the Xperia One, which I know I had to charge in the most like around the 5 or 6 o'clock in the afternoon because it wouldn't last me to the end of the day. So as long as I put it back on the charger, and I usually put it on the wireless charger overnight, it's fine, and by the morning it's back to 100%. And it has a nice little feature in there that if you use wireless charging more consistently, that it can actually tell you the target point of when it will reach 100% as it slows down the charging rate later in the evening to save battery. So a lot of nice little tricks there within the Xperia One Mark II. Adrian, kind of upset at Qualcomm with the price of the 865. So I'm personally going to be rocking the 855 for the first time, regardless of speed. I think you're making a good decision regardless, actually. Regardless of what Qualcomm is charging for the 865, the 855 is a very capable SoC, gives you great speed as far as connectivity, still also gives you the battery performance that you want to be able to get with I would say like still kind of flagship. I mean, it's literally just a year old. It's not an old car. We're not talking like, 20 years ago versus now. You'll be more than happy with it. I think the only limitation that we've seen with the 855 this time is if you're looking to get 5G, the 855 only had a few devices that carried it, namely the OnePlus 7T Pro McLaren Edition US model that carried 5G with T-Mobile, or you end up basically having to pick up a Samsung Galaxy S10 5G or a Note 10 5G. Those are the only ones that carry that. But you're still able to do quite well, and of course, you have a lot of options to be able to touch on. Plus, the price point I think would be much cheaper over time. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Does the motion blur technology on the Xperia 1 Mark II give the smoothing experience as of 90 hertz or other flagship devices? So, Nikhil, you have no idea how many times I've had that question, and I appreciate you posting it here in the chat. It's a straight answer. I would say it's an improvement over 60 frames per second. It's not true 90 frames per second. That's the easy way to say it. Day-to-day usage, when you consider the fact that you're using a 4K panel, not a 2K, not a 1080, a 4K panel with a better than 60 frames per second experience with no other device on the market in 2020 or even 2019 offering you that experience, that's still a feat to be appreciated. So it's definitely better, but I cannot say that it actually feels the same way as a OnePlus 8 with 90 hertz or a Mi 10 with 90 hertz on it. Those definitely feel stronger and definitely feel like they're 90 hertz. So if you're using them as the benchmark, I think you're definitely going to see the difference, but it's not bad enough to consider the fact that this is a 4K with a better than 60 frames per second refresh rate. So you'll definitely appreciate it. With that, yeah, thank you very much, Matt Tyler, with another super chat. I appreciate you, man. I'm really, really, really happy to see that, and thank you for hanging out and helping me with the Nightbot. That was, yeah, I want to be friends. That was I saw it. I didn't pay attention to it, but I appreciate it. Yeah, then I saw that the bot was jumping in. Here's another glass for Goku. Not as much water left, actually, very little left there. Question. So we'll jump over here. Yeah, no, it depends on, again, like I said, a personal perspective. I know a few friends that if they don't get 7 to 8 hours worth of screen on time, they consider the device not to be well worth it. For me, with the 4K function in there and the gaming and the speakers and the audio and all of that, very, very nice. I have to basically give Sony kudos for the work they did for audio performance here. The DAC that they have in there definitely much better than using USB audio over USB-C. The front-facing speakers, the experience, the UI, the gaming functionalities, the HS control, power control is super, super functional for extended gaming sessions where you don't have to worry about plugging in your phone, and still you're able to plug in your phone and listen to music wired at the same time. It's genius. I know. Why? I mean, why didn't they think of this back in 2019? or 2018. I don't know. But yeah, hopefully that answers it. So I've had the, so here, sorry, Mortino's work quick is so I've had the Xperia 1 for a year now. It's a great phone, and I am totally with you on that part. I still have that one. It's a great phone, but there's still some hiccups. Every time you start recording a video, for the first 1 to 2 seconds of the video, 9 out of 10 times it freezes. Mark II, no freezing. So to answer that second part, it does not. I'm wondering if you're recording video on higher resolutions, or are you recording 4K content, or are you recording 1080? I haven't seen that much of an issue, but I also have to say that I haven't been testing video on the Mark I since I actually picked it up closer to when I got the Mark II, and I've been focusing mostly on it. I would probably say also is, did you upgrade to Android 10, or are you still using Android 9? Because I depending on when you got yours, you probably got it with Android 9 out of the box, but hopefully you did receive that of course. I'm not sure. Honestly, I'm not sure. I would probably say if your unit is still demonstrating that concern, test it out with open camera. Do me a favor, test it out, try open camera and see if you have the same issues. That could also fix your problem. So hopefully that gets it there. So here, Radu is asking, how would you compare the OnePlus 8 Pro to the Xperia 1 Mark II, since both are built for speed? They're built for speed, yes. Are they built the same way? Very different. If we have to consider the fact that both of these devices are focusing on slightly different things, they're both considering on speed in the performance side. They're both fast and fluid. I feel like the OnePlus 8 Pro feels much faster in the way the system is done. The 120 frames per second refresh rate on the device with QHD is honestly second to none. Obviously, with the exception of the, I think I would say the Find X2 Pro, because that device obviously and the OnePlus 8 Pro share a lot of things in common. So keep that in mind. I would say if I had to compare it to two, if you're looking for great content consumption, watching videos a lot at 4K resolution with great audio, front-facing audio, I feel like the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II does that a little bit better because of the higher resolution display, and as well as the ability of using the custom white balancing, custom display configuration, HS power control for gaming. A lot of things done there that are done right. Where the OnePlus 8 Pro does things so much better, it's the ability of supporting 90 frames per second gameplay in Fortnite. That's something that we can't even say that even Sony can do that yet. It's also the ability of supporting high refresh rate gaming on other games that are going beyond 60 frames to 90 to 120. Those are things that we can appreciate, and I think those are things that are done right. So from a sense of speed, I feel like OnePlus 8 Pro feels faster in the hand, but from the sense of media consumption, it depends on what you're looking for. Both are great devices, though. I definitely appreciate having that type of technology. It's like 75.1 hertz screen. Yeah, not 60, not 90. It's in the between. Just enough to get you to what you need. I think that works much better, definitely. And then, so here, TK, what do you think about buying the Realme X2 Pro after a year of launch? Would it be a good buy when it comes with a long-term use, or what other phones given the same spec and the price point? So it really depends on I think it depends on the price point realistically. So purchasing a device that's about a year old is never going to be a situation where you're going to be like, well, this is just not going to run anything that I want to play. At the end of the day, when you look at it, a year old is literally just a year old. That's because of a generational difference. The improvements that we generally see between one version to the next version of the SoC are generally minimal. So true performance difference from what you're looking at right now, when you say a year-old device like an S10 even, or even with the X2 Pro, you're not going to really lose much on the day-to-day activity. If it's a brand new device and just fresh out of the box, I feel like the UI experience is going to definitely be really nice and really functional. Where you will lack a little bit, and that's sadly mostly because of just the way OEMs upgrade their devices, is the features. It's the new features that you're able to see with the 2020 version of the device. So those are the things that you want to keep in mind. Generally, they don't bring all of those features backwards, so they don't get all of them there. So if you're looking for anything specific in the 2020 market, I would say no, that's not something you want to look into. But I'd say is definitely worth the buy, save some money, and you should be able to basically extend the usage of this if all of the features in it, even though it's running the last generation of the SoC, that's going to be still good for you. So I'm always a proponent of doing buying devices that are like a flagship from a year old and using it in this year to save some money, and of course appreciate the value that you get from there. Thank you, Apijan. Gosh, hopefully, thank you very much for the super chat. Love, I appreciate TK forever, always. Thank you very much. Another question here. So, TK, how is the quality of the high resolution audio on the Xperia 1 Mark II? Thank you. So, so there's two ways to express the answer to that. How's the audio quality on? There's the headphone jack, and then obviously there is the speakers. When we talk about the headphone jack, by comparing it to most of the devices that I've used within the last year that are generally USB-C audio, meaning they're using a dongle, something to the effect of this. So iPhones are using the standard Lightning adapter and of course USB-C connector for all Android devices. I feel like by comparison to those, with the exception of the LG V60 or the LG V50, those are going to have to stay on the side. I think it does a great job. I think it's a great device. It does a great audio experience. And overall, what you're looking for there is a dedicated amp built into a headphone jack that is obviously brought back onto a device. And you're definitely not going to be disappointed there. It's not as good as the V60. I feel like the V60 right now in 2020 is the king when it comes to audio from a headphone jack. And I think some of the other guys here as well can definitely jump in and chime in on that thought. And Juan Carlos would definitely back me up on that one. So from this audio experience, it's better than the rest. Not as good as the V60, but it's still really good. I'm hoping that answers the question. And the front-facing stereo speakers on this, I feel like are a better representation even than most other devices that carry speakers that are front-facing, because they say they're front-facing. And what I mean by this is, and I keep pulling the wrong device. I think it's because I took my phone out of the case. But an example would be here. So this is the Mi 10. Mi 10 has stereo speakers, but the Mi 10 is not using the front-facing earpiece or the bottom side facing. They're using secondary speakers on the side here and on the side there to give us stereo. The stereo sound that I'm listening to the phone when I'm listening to it is going to the right and the left. So audio performance on it is always better when the speakers are facing you, kind of like how we see it with the ROG Phone 2. So very good. Definitely pleasing. You will not be disappointed with that as well. And of course, okay, so hey, Brandon Miniman is in the chat. Welcome. Good morning. Well, actually, good afternoon. It's 3 o'clock. Would you buy the Xperia 1 Mark II $1,200? Well, my pre-order says it all. Yes, I would pay $1,200 for that phone. It has been one of the hardest phones I've ever had. I had a very hard time putting it back in the box and sending it to Sony. It's one of those devices I really wanted to spend more time with it. I've enjoyed gaming, watching content, listening to music. Just everything that I've been doing with it has been enjoyable. It's worth the $1,200 as long as, again, and I feel like it's always about appreciating what Sony's bringing to the table. As long as you feel that what they're offering is a benefit to you, then it's worth it. If you do want to be able to compose your picture and take your time to be able to set up your shot from video to audio using external audio sources, I think the one thing that I think I posted over on Instagram and on Twitter, I hooked up an external monitor to my Xperia 1 Mark II with an external audio. So I hooked up external audio via 3.5mm headphone jack, used the USB-C with an HDMI adapter to a 4K monitor, external monitor, to be able to see what I'm doing. And it became a mobile rig. Very few devices can actually do that. I mean, there's a lot of things going on with it. And I feel like from a production standpoint, from a creative standpoint, this is going to be very much a gem. If you're looking at it and trying to compare it to the way, let's say, a OnePlus used, or even let's say an iPhone is used, I feel like at the end of the day, those are more maybe general consumer usage. And I feel like they offer great cameras and great experiences overall. I think the OnePlus 8 Pro is a beast when it comes to a device, much faster UI, much faster interface. But again, do you appreciate a 4K display, an actual headphone jack with the DAC, wireless charging, battery control that give you the ability of managing the battery health on your device? A lot of things that you only get with Sony. So I feel like it's worth it. I'm hoping at some point that we'll be able to basically maybe see some promotions that maybe will help people appreciate it more. But we can also always think about the Xperia 5 coming in later this year that will bring in a lot of these features down to a more affordable price point and slightly smaller form factor. So hopefully, I'm hoping that kind of answered the question there, Brandon. Let me. Oh wow, we got a slew of questions. Sorry. Yes. Aditya says, "Hey, Brandon, how you doing?" Your thoughts about the P40 Pro and comparison to the Pixel, the camera, so the Pixel camera. I think it depends on what you're looking for from the sense of performance. I think for me, I would go with either. For some reason, I feel like the way Huawei's been doing their camera science when it comes to the P40 is as good as I've seen it on the Pixel, and I would have no problem taking either one of those devices. And I know that my photos are going to come out absolutely the best. Video wise, I feel like the P40 Pro will definitely shoot a little bit more on that because not just the zoom functionality, but just the overall, we have a wide angle lens, basically night mode that's supported in the wide angle lens, as well as the more versatility in the camera department. So if we just compare photos, I feel like it's a toss-up, but when it comes to video, I feel like the P40 Pro would definitely be the winner there, especially with the P40 Pro Plus. From what I hear is it actually has true 10x zoom. So that's actually way more than what we get with the Pixel 4 at this point. Question. So here in the UK coming on, lockdown next week, stays. Yes, appreciate that. Thank you very much. Nubia RedMagic 5G is absolutely, man. Absolutely. The best gaming phone to date. I feel like it's a great device to be able to look at all of the things. And speaking of that, I do actually want to do real quick for you guys. I want to show you guys some of those, and there'll be more of a dedicated video posted for you guys very soon. So Nubia was nice enough to send me all of the accessories that they had for the RedMagic 5G. So here's the RedMagic 5G. So we have the cameras, obviously everything here. This is the case. It is not just a standard case that you use with the phone. This is a case that you want to use with the controller. So this comes as a bundle. So you'll be able to use both of these, and you can actually slide it in. So let's go ahead and put it in here. Of course, now that I'm doing it on camera, it's not going to slide. Here we are. So fits right very, very nicely. So go ahead. We'll lock the device and you put it in. And here, so when you turn on the actual UI, so jumping into the actual system, you push the button to turn it on, and I'll go ahead and turn off the fan. And here, you can actually see the controller. You can see the battery level on it, control, set up everything in there. You can see the different buttons, what you're pushing, and of course, the different triggers that you have, top and bottom. And so total, you have 2 top buttons, 2 bottom buttons, on and off. You have an initiation button for pairing, directional pad, and configuration here. And the beautiful thing about it is you go in there. So let's say, where is my PUBG game? Here it is. So we'll jump into PUBG, and it actually has a preset that I'm able to configure for it directly within the game. So I'll push the button here, and you'll notice right there, I have it set up right now, and it remembers my configuration. I'm able to move, set up the different shots, top and bottom, focus. And once I'm done, just close it, and the game will be ready for us to play. Very nice and very, very easy to set up. Let's go ahead and go home real quick. The next couple of things that they also did include for me here to check out is their dock. So this is a dedicated dock that gives us access to the few additional features: a USB-C connector for power, a full-size Ethernet port, as well as a secondary 3.5mm headphone jack for better gaming configuration. So if you remember, the RedMagic 5G has those pins. You basically just align. There's a little bit of a not click here. You can kind of feel it. And here we are. And you snap it up at the top, and basically becomes one part of the phone. Again, the 3.5mm headphone jack is not blocked, but you now have it in the back from better cable management if you want to be able to hook up speakers or so on. And of course, full-size Ethernet port. And at the end of the day, unlock the device, turn on your gaming mode, set it down, and last but not least, you're still able to use the controller here. And this is something that you can basically appreciate having access to. So controller gaming, and you don't even have to just use this. If you get the dock, I'd recommend you using, let's say, more of a regular controller. And of course, all of that function works really, really nicely. Last thing I want to talk to you guys about real quick before we jump away from it is, in the box, they did not include the fast 55-watt charger, and now they're selling it as a separate additional accessory. This not only works with the RedMagic 5G, but it also works with other devices. For me, honestly, I've been charging my S20 Ultra with it, and it charges very, very fast. So 55-watt charger, the external dock, the gaming pad, as well as the case, all of these really cool features that you're able to obviously use with the RedMagic 5G, and definitely really, really nice. So I appreciate it, Afnan, for the nice little segue that we got there. Question here is hashtag some LG chill guy. Yes, that's I think that's Juan Carlos, right? If I may end up getting, maybe getting that name at some point, but I feel like that'll always be Juan Carlos's. Yeah, hashtag some LG chill guy. Is it true the start of the Xperia Mark II sell starts from the 18th of June? No. Well, I take that back. Actual sales in Europe, I've seen some websites. I think was it Clove sells it and saying that it's available in the middle of June. But as far as pre-orders, from what I understand, in the US, it's available at the later part of July, and also depends on the market. So there is a very small possibility that the devices that are being sold are UK specific only, meaning UK market may receive these devices a little bit early. I don't know if they're truly. My understanding from Sony is that the release date is in July. That's what I heard. Why does it say, or some sites are saying that they're available in the middle of June? I don't know. I don't know. And I can try to reach out to Sony, but again, I have access to US Sony PR, so they're not going to be able to talk too much about European Sony. So if you know any other creator, social media creator that is using the Sony Xperia 1 Mark II in Europe, I would definitely reach out and see what they have or what they know of as far as in their markets. Question here. So is the Wind Filter for Cinema Pro app only for general videos also? It's available in both, actually. So if you're using the camera application, you have the Wind Filter on, you can definitely see the benefit both in the standard camera application or in the default one. So that you can turn it on and turn it off, no problem. And yes, so would it be something that you can definitely see or you can appreciate it in Twitter? I'm assuming you're talking about using the Twitter app to post a quick video, or you're actually posting a video to Twitter that you took from the standard camera app. I think the last part is more accurate than I would say the Twitter app, mostly because of the software. I don't think it's optimized. I tried using it with Instagram, and it didn't seem like it was working. So my assumption would be is that Twitter would be in that same boat. Adrian's talking about the V60 is a boss when it comes to audio. I wish more reviewers would give LG their long overdue props. Just my opinion. I'm with you, Adrian. I think it's a definite thing that a lot of people are missing out on. But it's something that we've always known about LG. LG does great when it comes to hardware, and I think LG's approach in 2020, I think, is a little bit different than what we've seen with previous generations, where if we notice that the V60 is only coming to the US and it's only coming right now is a locked model, which means we're going to have limited capabilities of people being able to pick up these devices and use them with other carriers. But yes, no, hardware when it comes to their cameras, the front-facing 4K, and it actually shows when you're trying to use the V60 with other like social media applications, you can see how much clearer the images are. And of course, the dedicated quad DAC that we have in there is literally second to none. It is the standard. I feel like it's the gold standard of audio performance. And I'm loving the fact that we have a bigger battery. We don't have a higher refresh rate or higher resolution display, but again, it's to complement what we can get with the dual display case that you're able to pick up. Some carriers are actually including that as the package. So you really have to appreciate what they've done. And I see that they're basically doubling down on the dual display, and I'm happy with that as well. I do want them to basically carry that for more devices as well. So I will always be basically I'm not going to say a hashtag some LG chill guy. I'm going to be basically obviously talking about what's the benefit here and what people can appreciate when they talk about LG. And LG is basically bringing it with a really good conversation, really good piece of hardware to talk about. And we'll always put it out. Like I said, even though I love the Xperia 1 Mark II, I always will talk about that device as if it's a device that I really want to be able to get back now. I have to appreciate what the V60 has to offer and what it's doing. It's definitely a boss. Audio on it, very, very nice. And of course, the control options that you have within the camera app are literally very much pro level experience there. Definitely there. So we'll double check here. Is it? Yes, I think that was the question we were talking about here. We talked about that one as well. Yes, sorry. I'm kind of jumping through and I'm like going back. So Matt Tyler, the ROG Phone 2 has the best front-facing speaker I've heard in a long time. Each speaker has its own amp. Really looking forward to the ROG Phone 3. You and I both. I think I honestly cannot wait to see what ASUS has to do when it comes to the ROG Phone. And I hope it obviously is that they'll continue this, since we don't have I think was it the Razer Phone 3 never made it. So we always want to be able to see more. And yes, it absolutely sounds great. That one of the reasons why I use it today as my main gaming device. It's a device that I felt like it was one of the better purchases that I've done. And I'm actually currently thinking about picking up that dual display case, or the second display case that they sell for it, that essentially is the same panel, just two forms of it, to be able to do more of a Game Boy style experience. But Matt is always obviously a very big advocate for ROG, and we always like to tease him. But at the end of the day, it is a very, very good, solid device. Uh, yeah, DT. I know. Um, I've seen the name a few times here and there. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad. Ahlan, ahlan, habibna. Muhammad is in the house as well. Yes, no, definitely. Nubia RedMagic 5D is the IQ3 5G. Which one would be best for? Honestly, the RedMagic 5G, hands down. 144 hertz on a gaming device, for stereo speakers, fast charging with 5G as support out of the box. I think it's there's no question. And there's different models of it. You can actually even get to the level where it's basically that nice little reddish color one. So you can definitely get a lot more benefits out of it. I think that's, if you're considering the two, I would go RedMagic 5G. Aditya Neil, where? Um, let me, well, okay, I'm not sure if that, oh, added, yeah, sorry, Matt's actually talking to Aditya. Let me double check here. Freestyle rap battles are in the third Saturday of the month. Thanks for playing. Yeah, you know what? Yeah, maybe we could do that. We'll have everybody submit a little bit of a freestyle rap, and we'll feature each video, and we'll see which one is actually that will sound the best for everybody else here. Last here, in a school that's just for Elise. Yes, definitely. Previous Sony Xperia phones, so this is Nikhil. Previous Sony Xperia phones have had a problem with camera app. If it was used extensively and it's used to shut down the camera app by giving warning camera heated. Does the Xperia 1 Mark II face the same? So it's funny that you mention it, because it's something that Juan Carlos and I had a conversation about very recently about it. It doesn't disable the camera. It's different. They did something different this time. What they did in this experience here is that they disabled certain functions within the camera. So what I mean by that essentially is, if you're trying to use trying to shoot 4K, it won't work. The standard 1080p video will still work. So certain things get disabled till the temperature is lowered. So that's something still, I would feel like this is something that we've seen with Sony, even with their cameras. I mean, for the longest time, I think the RX-7 line had a problem with not being able to record for too long, like over 10 minutes with a 4K, because the temperature gets too high. And it's something that Sony still to this day deals with. And I think that's one of the reasons why you see Sony devices having more controls over temperature, as well as also more controls for better battery life. So it's things to keep in mind like that offer us the best experience that you can expect from Sony. So always appreciate it. And I feel like it's something that we have to kind of keep in mind. They worry about it, they know about it, and I hope we get to the day where we no longer have to see it. It's better on the Xperia 1 Mark II, but not exactly as good as other devices where you generally don't have that problem. It's still there. Sadly, it is. But at least we can say that we don't lose the full functionality of the device. Any info on the Mate 40 Pro? Honestly, right now, the only things that I've heard on this is it's going to have a lot of heritage coming in from the P40 Pro Plus. So there'll be my understanding is that we're going to see probably the three different tiers: the standard Mate 40, Mate 40 Pro, Mate 40 Pro Plus. So I think Huawei is shifting in that aspect of moving over, and of course the newer SoC, the new Kirin chipset, and then last but not least, obviously the design. My hope is that they learn their lesson, that they're going to try to be more aesthetically form facting, giving us a little bit of the curvature, but not too much to where it drops. But I think at the end of the day, we'll have to see. I haven't heard much other than than that specifically. They're going to learn a lot more from the cameras that we see on the P40. Although I've heard it both ways, where the telescopic camera could come, or it could end up basically being what they had last year with the P30, the Mate 30. Sorry, there's too many P's and 30s and letters going on. But hopefully, if I found some more, I'll make sure to post that over on Twitter for you guys. Sophia's the first queen. Okay, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I don't know what to answer. Iyam Hulam. So kind of quick answer. Was born in Lebanon, born and raised in Beirut, Lebanon, and I've been here in the U.S. for way too long that I like to say. Let's just say this: I've spent more time here than I've spent back in Lebanon. But I speak Arabic, French, and English fluently, and then a little bit of German, Spanish, and very, very little other languages, like few bits and pieces from other things. But yes, that's probably the best way to say it. Lebanese. If a lot of people don't pick up on it, but if they do, they always like, oh yeah, that kind of sounds like it. I'm not here during. Okay, so LGH is basically, I'm not here always during the live chat, but it seems like you're responding on questions regarding the IQ. Do you keep track of those Indian brand as well? Do you think that BBK will bring IQ into the West? So I trend, believe it or not, when I start looking at a lot of my analytics on the channel, I realize that I have actually quite a bit of following in the Indian market. So that's one of the reasons why I try to keep track on both devices, not just necessarily main brand devices, but also other devices that are coming into the Indian market. So the example would be, I don't have access to it right away, but the Reno 3 Pro, that's an India-specific market that came in with the ColorOS 7.0. So those are things I generally jump into. Do I think they're ready? The IQ is going to actually come out in the same branding outside from India over to the West. At this point, I find it a little bit hard for it to make it, mostly because of the saturation level that we have. I think Xiaomi is they're trying the best to be able to jump into that market. We're noticing Nubia is trying to jump in, but those are obviously Nubia's out there, but Xiaomi's specifically trying to do it. But very few other manufacturers are coming over. So Oppo's been focusing heavily on that market. So Indian market is very big for Oppo, for Xiaomi, for OnePlus. And those are the ones that we generally get. But the third smaller brand ones, so I follow C4E Tech. I also follow Rev Atlas. Those are two of my big guys that I follow. I've worked with Rev Atlas before. If you guys don't know, so I'm deep there. So, and of course, C4E Tech. So those are generally my main sources of devices. And I try to see how much demand there is there. And if there is enough, I try to import. That's the best way for me to cover it. But I appreciate you throwing in there. And thank you for making into the live chat. So yes, so I appreciate you asking for the giveaway. I did a giveaway a few weeks ago that is on the way over to, and the winner was Lani. I'm finding it a little bit. I would love to be able to do more giveaways on a channel as much as possible. The biggest issue that we have, and here's where the issue comes in, becomes a very big problem on certain creators. It's the logistics and the shipping process to send devices across borders outside of the US or even to Europe is logistically very complicated, with very little control as to making sure a person is able to get it. The example I would say, just kind of throwing out numbers, to send a device from me to somebody in India, not to say that you're from there, but just kind of an example, from here to either China or India, will sometimes cost me almost 50 to 60% of the device price to send. So understanding the fact that a giveaway is great to be able to build a channel base and help people. I feel like device giveaways are very hard. And also India has a rule where I can't even ship a used device. If it looks like it's been used, the phone cannot be shipped to India. So there's even that big of a hurdle that we can't even cross once we get to certain things. And then the factor is of the current situation that's going on, complicating things. It makes it a lot harder. And I think if I do end up going to doing more giveaways in the future, I think it'll be more in the form of gift cards. And those are easier for me to basically be able to just to email to somebody. So hopefully be able to do more of those. But as far as devices, keep in mind, most of the devices I get on the channel are not mine to keep. Full example, the Xperia 1 Mark II is the device I had to ship back on Tuesday or on Monday. This device, the RedMagic 5G, I had some time with it, but Nubia wants it back. I get to ship that back next week as well. So all along, at the end of the day, very few devices I actually get are devices that I'm able to give away, as there are loaners to me. So I'm hoping that answers it. And again, I'm not trying to say I don't like doing them. It's very hard on my end. Because I want to make sure to fulfill a promise if I make it. And if I'm not able to, it's very hard. And it just makes both of us not feel very good about it. That's the end of the way I'm going to say it. Lloyd's asking, TK, is the Xperia 1 Mark II firmware pre-sale firmware? From what I understand from Sony right now is there is going to be an update coming out before the final release. And there is going to be some optimizations on the firmware to improve performance. But the performance that we get right now should be basically final retail performance. So the fixing that is coming in with the update is not going to be fixing the overall horsepower of the device, but more tuning some functionalities on the camera. And to start with, we're already in a much better point than most other devices. So I feel like what you're able to see right now from them is definitely going to be representative of retail. So that should be the best way to look at it. So this one's from Lloyd as well. So Gary, ask at Matt Tyler, what about, yeah, so So yeah, Gary is throwing in a little bit of a jab, not at Matt or even at Sam, but Matt and Sam. If speaking of which, please, if you haven't had a chance to check it out tomorrow, hopefully, Matt, let me know if it's going to change. But so actually here it is. So not as opposed to me trying to explain the whole thing, let me just put in Matt's words. So Sam sent out the G8X over 2 months ago to Matt. Now, Sam is on the East Coast, or closer to the East Coast of the US. Matt is in the UK. So you would imagine a shipping process or somebody sending a package from there to, from the US to the UK would not take more than a week. But not only have they seen the device, not only make it to the UK, but back from the UK to the west coast of the US, so closer to me, and then back going somewhere. And I have no idea where it is now. Uh, and then later, oh wow, there was a $200 custom charge too. Okay, so I haven't heard about that development, but that story literally has been going on for a while, and it's by far, I feel like, an epic story that you could just write a book about, the journey of the G8X across countries and what it had to go just to go from Sam to Matt. Is just like you don't want to be in that position. That's one of the things that I always deal with whenever I have to say I want to ship something. So sending things anywhere outside of the US is a very hard thing. So I think gift cards would absolutely fix 90% of it, because A, you get to do what you want with it. B, I get to share something with you and I don't have to worry about basically, worrying about mail, delay, and it's much more instantaneous. I feel like the speed of the performance will always be better. Vikash is back with another question. Is the iPhone 8 enough to give to my dad? He does not use his phone. Sorry, he does not use the phone as we do. He just has normal usage. Honestly, so I love the iPhone 8 question. Mostly because it actually is the same size as this guy. So this is the iPhone SE 2020. So I would say as long as the form factor is not too small, so as long as your dad's able to read on the smaller form, the display on the iPhone 8, I feel like it's a great choice. Honestly, from the sense of what you're getting there, it's a reasonable device. It should still be receiving the updates from Apple as far as the latest version of iOS. And I feel like from a day-to-day activity, the camera should be good enough, front-facing and back-facing, and they should be able to do a great job for him. So yeah, no, I think there's no question there. And like I said, my only thing I would say when you said your dad, I don't know how old he is as long as he's comfortable, able to read on a device like this. It's just a smaller form factor, if that would be my thing. If you're able to maybe get him the 8 Plus, that also would be helpful. As that one, I think, was a 5.5 inch display and a much bigger and much better. I mean, bigger chin and forehead, but easier to hold and bigger battery as well. So hopefully that helps you as well. So Bob, TK, would you wait for the Note 20 or upgrade to the Note 10? If you're referring to just the standard model, so you're not talking about the one with the, obviously the expandable storage, I personally would say right now so keep in mind, there is a Note 10 5G, and then obviously the Note 20 will have 5G built into it. I think I would probably say that the Note 10 is a good buy. Save some money and go with the Note 10 with the 855. If you're able to pick up the Note 10 5G, should be still cheaper. I don't think realistically. And then the other thing is, I don't know if they're going to bring Sorry about that. I don't know if they're going to be bringing in the expandable storage to the standard model of the Note 20 the way they did it last year with the Note 10 Plus. So that could also be a factor. I don't think the cameras are going to be that much better realistically. If they end up going with the 108 megapixel camera, I personally would say that the S20 Plus is a much better setup overall for camera configuration than the S20 Ultra, mostly because of that the focus issue that we're still having with the S20 Ultra. I can't tell you how many times whenever I try to take a picture and I'm trying to focus on my son, and it's just jumping between him and the background. It's just, I would always appreciate something that's more consistent. And I think the Note 10 cameras are very nice. So I hope that answers it. But again, at the end of the day, it's also going to be how much the sticker price shock is going to be when the Note 20 comes out, right? If every year is an indicator, they go up and up and up. So I'm hoping they're affordable, and then the Note 10 or the Note 20 will be in a reasonable price point as well. Yeah, sorry about the capital. Yes, no, exactly. It's a hard story to play, to go with. Um, So I put in a request. So here there was a question here. TK, would you please review the Mate XS as far as foldable masterpiece? So I had a chance last year to play with the Mate X, not the XS, the X version of it, which for the most part is the same mechanism. And I also did play a little bit with it again at CES. Um, I think the Mate X offers us the better foldable solution from the usability standpoint, not from a durability standpoint. And what I mean by this is it actually has a bigger display on the outside, and when you open it up, it makes a bigger display. The cameras on it are very capable. Obviously, we're getting Huawei technology, very nice. I did put in a request with Huawei for this. I don't know if they're going to be providing it to anybody in the US. I've seen a few of my buddies in Europe as well as the Middle East that have had some time to play with it. But I have to say, I will see what Huawei is offering. I'm hoping they do. If they do, it will be on the channel always, both English and in Arabic. So always make sure to cover both of those. Pre-order the Sony. Hey, Garesh, same here. Excited, like a child waiting for Christmas. Honestly, it's always like Christmas. So that's the one thing. And for me, it's my wallet is hurting a lot. So I'm in the process, obviously, as you say, I'm waiting for the Xperia 1 Mark II. At the same time, Samsung put out that the G7 and the G9 started to come out. Now, I don't know what happened with the whole Amazon thing. They kind of had the listings and they kind of took it away. But yeah, no, July seems to be, when they say Christmas in July, it definitely is going to be Christmas in July this year. So for both Sony as well as Samsung devices, if you're looking for their new G9 series, and congrats, man. I'm pretty sure if you're ordering it in the US, you got the same colors I did at the black one. We don't have any other options. I am really hoping that before release, they bring in at least the purple one. I want to see the purple one. I want the purple one. It's available in Japan. I know that much. Anath, is there any features called visual card on OnePlus devices, which basically categorizes the messages in the default messaging app? Is it available on the OnePlus? Is it available on any OnePlus 5, but not on OnePlus? I'm not sure. I've never used the visual card feature, and I wasn't sure what it is exactly. If somebody has used it in the chat, I mean, I have my OnePlus 8 Pro here. Let me see. Do we have? I don't have that feature in here. It's not present in the. So I'm looking at the default the default messaging app right here, and it does not actually. It's not a feature that's listed in here. Maybe you can leave me a comment or try to reach out to me over on Twitter, and we can talk a little bit more about that. Sorry, I don't have that one in there, and I haven't heard of it actually. No age limit to get excited, mate. Yeah, no, absolutely. It's like always, you got to enjoy it. Okay, so Matt's leaving. I want to say thank you very much. And I actually, oh wow, okay. So hashtag TKRB. Thank you very much, and look forward to checking out to see who you guys are going to be talking to tomorrow. We are actually, I didn't realize it. Wow, 2 hours and 20 minutes almost. Thank you very much. Let's see. Let's keep going. See if there's any other questions that I missed. What is the best wired headphones? So there's a different school of thought as far as when it comes to wired. If you're talking about just general wired headphones, meaning just you want to hook it up to your smartphone that supports a connection, obviously 3.5 millimeter headphone jack or an adapter. I think anything from like a pair of Bang & Olufsen or even AKG headphones should be okay, wired wise. You can also go some. I think the best ones that I've seen that are quite inexpensive are the OnePlus Bullets wired, those standard Bullets USB-C connectors. Now those will work with any device, even if they do include a 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. And for the quality and the price point that are about $20, they're great. The microphone on them was actually really good. So if you're looking for a good bang for the buck, I feel like those are going to be great. Wired wise, that are just regular 3.5 millimeter headphone jack connector, you're going to need to make sure that they're Android specific, that they're not iOS. In general, the way the connectors are set up won't work the same way on both Android and iOS. So I feel like USB-C would be a little bit better. You're not going to have any problems with the latency. The audio performance should be still pretty good. But if you're also thinking about getting like higher impedance headphones, you need to also consider what device you're using it with. So it ends up being what you're using them for and what you're using them with that dictates. But you can start as $20, as I mentioned, with the USB-C bullet connectors, or you can go to basically nice expensive pair of high impedance headphones like these that you can listen to with the V60. It depends on what you're using, but I would definitely look at the reviews. And actually, speaking of which, El Jefe Reviews was in the chat not that long ago. Check him out. He does a great work with reviewing headphones as well. So goodbye to Matt. Thank you, Gary saying bye. Are the Sony Xperia 2? Oh, CJ. Okay. I think he's talking to CJ on that one. According to you, what will be the next breakthrough in mobile technology? When it comes down to actually pushing tech or pushing technology on smartphones right now, we need to start figuring out how to make the device do more for us than just be basically a rectangular, a glowing rectangle. I think that's probably why the actual subreddit not that I'd like to mention it, but if you haven't had a chance to check it out, make sure to check out the subreddit glowing rectangles. Juan Carlos and actually a good part of the team members that are here are always a part of it. I think it's going to be in the overall usability functionality. I think we need to get better at AI functions, and that's going to be more on the software side. Display technology, I think 4K, 120 hertz refresh rate on a 4K would maybe be a good technology push, but it seems to be more incremental, and we haven't really seen a lot. Foldables are definitely a future, but we also, again, are still in that experimental feature. So I feel like if we had to kind of pick a direction, I would say foldable technology. The ability of making a small display be bigger is always going to be appreciated because you're able to basically switch between the two. So that's more of the functionality on the display, but getting higher refresh rate on those devices, and of course, durability. So I think that's going to be the next wave of improvements. Better foldables, more durable foldables, and of course, the ability of getting higher refresh rate and higher resolution on those as well. Okay, but with that, I think we're probably getting close to kind of almost at the end. You also, I think that kind of answers the question that we were talking about before. More than likely, that's going to be the route that I'll be going to if we do giveaways on the channel. It won't be, and it'll be more gift card specifics to stores. So it won't be physical money. It would be more gift cards. So yeah, definitely something like that. I appreciate that. Thank you, man. And then, can you suggest any website in Europe from where I can buy a refurbished or save money on iPhones? That's a great question. I'm gonna actually throw that over to Aditya. I'm not big on the European market. I know in the US, Swappa is one of the best ones. I normally would have said eBay, but I've had so many bad experiences with eBay on buying and selling phones because that's just the way it's been on my end. But Aditya, if you know of any other sites in there in Europe that are known for good prices for selling and used refurbished iPhones and so on, please, if you don't mind, dropping that in the comments as well. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, jumping over. Should other brands follow Apple's iPhone SE formula? Like, wouldn't mind the Nexus 5 with a Snapdragon 865 in 2020. I think it would be a good option for people to reuse their standard design. The one thing you want to keep in mind is that where Apple designed and manufactured their own devices, even down to the 7 or the 6, on the iPhone 7 or iPhone 8. You have to also appreciate the fact that they made the hardware, where the Nexus 5 or Google never made any of their devices, and those molds and those devices, from a manufacturing standpoint, it doesn't exist anymore. But the idea of it actually feels like something that we would definitely appreciate: a smaller form factor device with a more stronger internals, and of course the processing that we get from Google as a device. I think what Google has proven to us over time, or time and time again, is that they're able to do so much in software that they can actually overcompensate for the downside or the issues that we can get from hardware. Perfect example is the Pixel 3a and the 3a XL. Both of these devices are running mid-range chipset, but their performance as far as image quality is close or really good that you would have basically just like, wow, I can't believe a $400 phone can do that. So where the formula Apple is in a very unique position to be able to do, since they have control over every single piece of that little that Lego, or not Lego, that puzzle that makes the picture of the iPhone. Other manufacturers unfortunately don't, and Google doesn't for sure, because A, they don't make their devices. B, their devices are made in factories with other companies that make other devices. So down the road, it's hard for them to resurrect a design like that without having to recreate it. That's what I mean. I'm not saying resurrecting it. I'm saying recreating the wheel to be able to give you that same experience. Oh, wow. thank you very much for joining. It is. I'm realizing I'm pushing it. It is. We are actually at the mark where we kind of need to also kind of hit that sweet spot there. So I'm gonna start real quick. Just do a quick stand. Yeah, man, I appreciate it. Here. Yeah, so it depends on I would just do a search and see what's available, and then honestly, I would maybe throw that back and see if we can get some people to comment on it as well. Okay, so Nikhil, I'm probably the actual comparison between it and other flagships. It's going to take me some time, and it's mostly because I didn't have enough time to do the comparisons that I needed to do. I had the device literally for a short amount of time before I got the email from Sony asking me for it back, and I had to prioritize the either do I do a full or all around comparison to the actual device, be able to put my thoughts on everything about this about the Xperia, or focus purely only on the cameras. I am going to talk to the cameras. I'm going to cover the cameras specifically on how they perform and what they are able to provide us. And I can tell you that with the experience of me using them for the almost 2 weeks time that I had the device, they're absolutely second to none when it comes to the back sensors. Are they in the experience of an auto mode, or what you're looking for? Is it going to be basically an easy point and shoot kind of an experience? 9 times out of 10 with the Camera Pro in auto mode, yes, I think you're going to get a good experience. The front-facing camera needs a lot of work. It's not as good. And 4K 60 is only available in the Cinema Pro. So there are certain pieces to that puzzle that need to be discussed, and I will make sure to cover that within the next week or so. But as far as straight head-to-head comparison, unfortunately, not till I'm able to get a device again, and I'm waiting for my pre-order as everybody else is. Hopefully that gets you the answer there. Yeah, actually, and with that, I'm actually starting to get notifications from my other boss. So let me double check here. Oh, Ireland. Hey, man. Nice. I actually have a few buddies up there as well. Last but not least, Gary. Oh, got them all on the Amazon Prime Day. They're sweet. Those are that's actually the HD 590Cs. That's not bad. Not bad. Not a bad pair at all. Any ideas if the Gcam mod has been prepared for the Xperia 1 Mark II? No, non-functioning exact yet because of the configuration, but it's also because of the availability. No developer received these devices in the sense of the way where Sony's sending them out. All the hardware that's been sent out right now are pre-production pieces of hardware. So I would say the closer we get to final production and people starting to be able to receive their devices, I think we'll start being able to see a Gcam mod out of them. No questions asked at all there. So with that being said, I do want to say thank you very much. I did not realize we got to the 2 hours and 25-minute mark. Thank you very much for everybody, obviously, for hanging out with me. I realize it's quite late later in the evening in the UK, in India, of course, other places in the world. And it is like roughly 1 p.m. my time as well here in the US. So with that being said, thank you very much. And I want to say, please be safe. Please connect, talk to your friends, connect with other people, be open to conversations with everybody around you and with everything that you are, that you value. And of course, love one another the way you want to be loved. So treat others the way you want others to treat you, or to basically provide you that level of treatment. And as we are always going to be, that'll be the best way for us to connect. And that's one of the reasons why the community that we have here and the community that Juan Carlos has around him as well is very strong, is that we're open, we're able to discuss things, and we can talk iPhone, we can talk Android, we can talk laptops, we can talk cameras, headphones, USB-C microphones, and again, it's a tech community that just thrives on talking to each other and listening to each other. So with that being said, I want to say sabaho. I realize it's late in the evening for everybody there, and I want to say thank you very much for everybody in the chat. And of course, I don't want to forget, thank you very much, Gary, for the super sticker. I always appreciate it, sir, very much for joining us. So to Gary, to Aditya, to Sam, to Matt, to El Jefe, to everybody that's in the chat. If I didn't get a chance to mention your name as well, thank you very much for joining me. Thank you for allowing me to be part of your Saturday, be it Saturday or even what it sounds like in some situations, Sunday morning. And we'll be back with you guys more, next week, and have more conversations regarding tech. I am starting to pick up more live streams over on Amazon. I'm going to be a little bit more informative there, as Amazon's starting to push more support back into that ecosystem. So you'll see more and more. And I did do a video there when I think Aditya and Matt kind of joined me as well. But with that being said, Be safe, be nice. Thank you very much for checking out the live stream here with us Saturday morning with tech. I'll be back with you next week on Saturday as usual. And I have a feeling, hopefully Juan Carlos will be able to join me as well. And we'll talk a little bit more about what's going on in tech for next week. I'll see you guys then. Thank you very much. And always appreciated how many people were able to join me on the chat. Thank you very much.